Hello, amazing American audience. Today we're diving headfirst into a dramatic love story where the flames of passion burn as bright as a Texas summer night BBQ. But beneath it all lurk storms ready to tear everything apart. Buckle up because this is going to be a wild, emotional, drama-filled ride, the kind we Americans can't get enough of. Beneath the brilliant blue sky of a June Saturday afternoon, the suburbs of Dallas, Texas, transform into a dazzling paradise. The sprawling ranch, stretching across hundreds of acres and owned by Lawrence Larry Bennett, a notorious real estate tycoon, is buzzing with festive energy. Lively country music from a local band blares through Bose speakers scattered across the yard, blending with the hearty chatter and laughter of hundreds of guests. Long oak tables draped in crisp white linens stretch beneath the shade of ancient trees, piled high with sizzling BBQ brisket platters, creamy mashed potatoes, golden cornbread fresh from the oven, and dozens of frosty Lone Star beers sweating in the sweltering Texas heat. Today isn't just any day. It's the wedding of Sophia Bennett, Larry's darling daughter, and Ethan Sullivan, a local boy with a sunrise smile and deep emerald eyes that make anyone do a double take. This wedding isn't just a ceremony, it's a grand spectacle, a lavish display of wealth and hospitality, uniting two families amid thunderous applause and endless toasts. Congrats, Larry! This couple looks like they stepped out of a Hollywood movie. Earl Grayson, a longtime friend of Larry's and a dairy farm owner a few miles down the road, strides over and claps Larry on the shoulder with gusto. The old man, with his silver hair and a weathered Stetson hat, swirls a glass of Maker's Mark whiskey in his hand, his eyes twinkling with delight. Thanks, Earl. Come on in. Save a drink for me later, all right? Days like this don't come around often, Larry replies, flashing a wide grin that shows off his gleaming white teeth against his tanned, rugged face. He waves a hand with a booming voice. Hey, kids, get out here and show the guests to the tables. A gaggle of kids, Sophia's young cousins, bursts out from the corner of the yard where they'd been tossing a football on the lush green lawn. The oldest, Sammy, about 10, sporting a bright red Texas Star t-shirt, shouts, "Yes, Grandpa Larry! Follow me, everyone!" The guests erupt in laughter, trailing the kids toward the heart of the party, where the rich aroma of grilled meat and melted butter fills the air, making stomachs growl in anticipation. This wedding isn't just Ethan and Sophia's big day. It's a shared extravaganza, with both the bride's and groom's families pulling out all the stops to make it an unforgettable memory. Larry Bennett, with his tens of millions earned from real estate deals in Dallas and Fort Worth, has spared no expense turning his ranch into a world-class outdoor stage. A massive LED screen in the yard loops sweet moments of Ethan and Sophia, from their first date at a drive-in movie to a camping trip at Lake Ray Roberts. The live band, led by a guitarist in a blue plaid shirt and glossy black cowboy hat, strums Garth Brooks' Friends in Low Places, prompting a few older couples to sway and stumble across the grass with giddy excitement. But it's not just the Bennetts stealing the show. The Sullivans, though less wealthy, bring an irresistible all-American charm. Margaret Maggie Sullivan, Ethan's mom, struts in a sunflower-patterned dress and glossy brown cowboy boots, pushing a cart loaded with homemade pecan pies, her family's heirloom recipe, baked through the night. Made from scratch, Maggie beams, her golden curls bouncing. Gotta show the in-laws we don't come empty-handed. Tom Sullivan, Ethan's dad, stands beside her, nursing a Shiner Bock beer. Dressed in a deep red polo and faded jeans, his eyes light up as he watches his son in a sharp black tuxedo. Ethan and Sophia, the brightest stars of the day, stand at the center of every gaze. Sophia is breathtaking in a floor-length Pronovia's white wedding gown, cinched at her slim waist and accentuating her perfect curves. Her dark brown curls cascade naturally, adorned with a delicate, sparkling tiara catching the sunlight. Her big brown eyes glow with joy, her smile as radiant as a Texas summer day. Ethan, tall and broad-shouldered from his high school football days, looks dashing in a tailored black tuxedo, his tousled blonde hair and piercing green eyes like polished gems. He holds Sophia's hand, his gaze locked on her as if the roaring crowd around them doesn't exist. Look how perfect they are together. Callie, a distant cousin of Sophia's, whispers to her best friend Rachel, clutching a frosty margarita rimmed with salt. Callie, about 30, wears a vibrant orange floral maxi dress, her ombre blonde-brown hair fluttering in the breeze. Larry must be so proud. His family's got money, and now a handsome son-in-law, too. Yeah, but I heard Ethan's family isn't that well off, Rachel replies, her voice low as if afraid of being overheard. With tanned skin and aviator sunglasses perched on her head, she sips her cocktail and adds, Ethan hit the jackpot marrying Sophia. That Dallas penthouse the Bennetts bought them is worth millions. Callie shrugs, smirking. As long as they love each other, who cares? Money comes later. Larry, overhearing snippets of the gossip nearby, doesn't bat an eye. For him, today isn't just about flexing his wealth, though he could do that blindfolded. It's about proving the Bennetts know how to throw a wedding Dallas will never forget. He strides onto a wooden stage set up on the lawn, grabs the mic, and his deep voice rumbles through the speakers like thunder. Thank you all for being here today. This isn't just Sophia and Ethan's big day. It's the day our two families become one. So raise your glasses. Cheers! The crowd roars with applause, glasses clink, and laughter ripples across the vast space. While Larry and his elegant wife Eleanor, her bobbed auburn hair, in emerald silk dress catching the light, greet guests outside, Ethan and Sophia are inside the main house, mingling with their closest friends. The Bennett's farmhouse-style home, with white wooden walls and massive glass doors, glows with warm yellow string lights draped along the porch. Inside, the spacious living room echoes with the laughter of old friends who grew up with Ethan and Sophia, through camping trips at Lake Ray Roberts, high school football games at Allen, and starry summer nights on endless fields. Ethan, you've hit the big time. Derek, Ethan's best friend since elementary school, punches his shoulder with a toothy grin, teeth slightly stained from too much Coca-Cola. Dressed in a red plaid shirt and ripped jeans, he holds a Miller Lite. Marrying Sophia Bennett, you're set for life. Cut it out, Derek, Ethan laughs, his warm Texas drawl shining through. He claps his friend's back, eyes sparkling. I married her for love, not money. Sophia glances at Ethan from behind, flashing a playful, irresistible smile. He's right. He loves me for real. Don't you? Babe? She tiptoes, planting a soft kiss on his cheek, leaving a faint pink lipstick mark on his tan skin. Their friends hoot and whistle, some snapping photos of the sweet moment. Though the Sullivans aren't as wealthy as the Bennetts, Ethan never let that dim his confidence. His parents, Tom and Maggie, worked tirelessly at a small auto repair shop in McKinney, outside Dallas, to put him through Texas Tech. Tom, a wiry man with calloused hands stained by motor oil, often recalls the lean years. Back then, me and your mom worked weekends just to buy you that beat-up laptop for college. Maggie, with her sweet southern lilt, beams with pride. But he aced everything. Straight A's. After graduating with a degree in civil engineering, Ethan landed a solid job at Hensel Phelps in downtown Dallas. $65,000 a year, not sky high, but enough to live comfortably on his own terms. Sophia's different. Backed by her father, she works for an international tech firm in Austin specializing in AI, pulling in a six-figure salary that let her buy a sleek black Tesla Model Y without a loan. But she's never arrogant about it. The money's my parents', not mine, she tells friends. I just want to be happy. They met in high school at Allen High. Ethan, the tall, broad-shouldered blonde who played linebacker on the football team, always stepped in to shield Sophia from the boys teasing her after class. Sophia, the stunning girl with a dazzling smile and natural dark curls, fell for Ethan's sincerity and gentleness. Rare in a popular guy like him. Their love bloomed through study sessions in the library, movie dates at Cinemark, and late-night texts on Ethan's old Samsung. By college, they were official, brushing off the whispers about their different backgrounds. To save costs and show unity, the families co-hosted the wedding. The day before, the Sullivans threw a BBQ at their modest McKinney home. Smoke rose from the grill, brisket sizzled, and the aroma wafted through the neighborhood. Tom strummed an old guitar, playing Willie Nelson tunes, while Maggie bustled about, serving fresh pecan pies. "Eat up, don't be shy," she laughed, wiping sweat from her brow with a Texas flag apron. The next morning, Ethan drove his glossy green Ford Bronco to the Bennett Ranch to pick up Sophia. Stepping out in his tuxedo, his polished black dress shoes gleamed in the sun. When Sophia appeared at the door in her pristine white gown, Ethan froze, heart pounding. "You're gorgeous," he whispered, voice shaky. She smiled, took his hand, and they walked out to the yard where hundreds awaited. The ceremony was a Hollywood dream. Under a canopy of white flowers crafted by a pro-Dallas event team, Sophia walked out to Christina Perri's "A Thousand Years," blaring through the speakers. She held a bouquet of pure white roses, her red Louboutin heels glinting beneath her dress. Ethan waited at the aisle's end, his green eyes glowing like emeralds. They exchanged vows, voices trembling. "I promise to love and protect you forever," Ethan said, gripping her hand. "I'll stand by you, rich or poor," Sophia replied, eyes glistening. Applause thundered, and as they kissed as husband and wife, confetti cannons erupted, painting the sky in a burst of color. Guests gushed. "They look like they're from Vogue," someone shouted. "The Sullivans lucked out with Sophia," an older auntie added, sipping white wine. Tom and Maggie, teary-eyed at the VIP table, raised their glasses, silently thanking fate for bringing Sophia to their son. Larry clapped Tom's shoulder, laughing. "We're family now, in-law." After the wedding, Larry and Eleanor gifted the couple a lavish honeymoon, tickets to Kauai, Hawaii, with 3 nights at the Grand Hyatt Resort. "Go enjoy yourselves," Larry boomed, slapping Ethan's back so hard he stumbled. "Thank you, Dad." Ethan grinned, grateful. A week later, they returned to Dallas, moving into a swanky Deep Ellum penthouse, a $2.5 million wedding gift from Sophia's parents. The 1,700-square-foot space boasted floor-to-ceiling windows with a Dallas skyline view, modern CB2 furniture, and a small balcony with Sophia's beloved lavender plants. Their life began in bliss. Evenings found them cooking in their sleek kitchen, Ethan searing steaks on a cast-iron skillet, the sizzle mingling with Sophia's balsamic-dressed arugula salad. They'd cuddle on their brown leather sofa, watching The Mandalorian on Disney+, hands intertwined. Weekends meant Bronco trips to visit their parents, grabbing Whataburger fries or dining at upscale Albernet's downtown. Seeing them so happy, everyone thought their love would last forever, like a tear-jerking American rom-com. But life, like a Netflix series, hides twists and cracks no one notices, until they shatter. And Ethan and Sophia's story, though it began as bright as a Texas summer sun, is about to face dark, stormy days where love will be tested by doubt, control, and secrets no one saw coming. After a wedding as lively as a music festival at the Bennett Ranch, Ethan Sullivan and Sophia Bennett began their married life in a luxurious penthouse in Dallas's Deep Ellum district. From their small balcony, bursting with vibrant purple lavender, they could gaze at the city's skyline twinkling each night. Skyscrapers like the Bank of America Plaza, glowing with mystical green light, or the Prudential Tower blazing red against the dark, reflecting the fiery orange sunset like an oil painting. The 1,700-square-foot apartment, with its glossy walnut floors, floor-to-ceiling glass walls, and sleek CB2 furniture, symbolized a perfect start. But behind this picture of happiness, Ethan and Sophia carried their pasts, clashing personalities and invisible pressures, like two puzzle pieces that fit just right but had sharp edges, ready to cut if not handled with care. Ethan Sullivan grew up in a modest little house in McKinney, a quiet Dallas suburb lined with old oak trees and classic white wooden American homes. The Sullivan family home was far from glamorous. Its white paint had faded to a pale yellow under the Texas sun and wind. The gray shingles were weathered by time, and the backyard featured chipped red bricks where Ethan used to play football with the neighborhood kids. The small garage out back always reeked of motor oil and gasoline from Tom Sullivan's auto repair shop, a place that was both their livelihood and a testament to years of relentless hard work. Tom was a wiry man, his rough hands calloused and his face etched with deep lines from toiling under Texas's blistering sun. He'd been the best mechanic in McKinney, able to fix any Ford or Chevy with just an old toolbox and decades of know-how. Most evenings, he'd sit on an oak rocking chair on the porch, a cold Shiner Bock in hand, staring out at the distant fields. "When you were little, Ethan," he'd say in his low drawl, "your mom and I worked weekends at the car wash down the road just to buy you your first pair of football cleats. All I wanted was for you not to grow up struggling like I did." Maggie Sullivan, Ethan's mom, was a petite woman with meticulously curled golden hair and a smile as warm as morning sunshine. She worked at a local donut shop, baking pecan pies so delicious the whole neighborhood raved about them. "You're our pride and joy, son," she'd say, wiping sweat from her brow with a Texas flag apron. "We may be poor, but I raised you to hold your head high and never feel less than anyone." The Sullivans weren't rich. They were quintessential Texas middle class, scraping by on modest earnings from the repair shop and bakery, but they took pride in their hard work and honesty. Ethan inherited that spirit from his parents. As a kid, he brought home bright red honor roll certificates from McKinney ISD Elementary School, even winning the 5th grade Outstanding Student Award for an essay about his dream of becoming a civil engineer. At Allen High, Ethan stood out not just for his 6 feet 1 inch frame and athletic build, but for his talent on the football field. With his tousled blonde hair and a beaming smile revealing straight white teeth, he was a star linebacker for the Eagles, leading them to the state championship his junior year. On Friday nights under the stadium lights, thousands cheered as he charged through defenses, ball clutched tight, sweat streaking his tanned face. But Ethan wasn't the cocky, flashy type. He was quiet, kind, and always ready to lend a hand. Derek, his best friend since elementary school, still recalls the night Ethan stayed up copying math homework for him after Derek dozed off in class. "He's the kind of guy who never leaves you hanging," Derek says with a wide grin, clutching a Miller Lite at Rusty Taco. "When I broke my leg, he biked me home from school every day." Ethan also fixed neighbors' bikes for free, sitting in the backyard with his dad's old tools, hands smeared with grease, but a smile never fading. The Sullivans poured everything into getting Ethan to Texas Tech in Lubbock, over 300 miles from McKinney. Tom sold his beloved old Dodge truck to buy Ethan a used Dell laptop, while Maggie worked extra shifts at the bakery, standing hours by a scorching oven to cover tuition. "I didn't want you dropping out," she told him once, packing pies for his dorm, her eyes red from exhaustion. "Finish school so you don't have to struggle like us." Ethan didn't let them down. He graduated with a near-perfect GPA in civil engineering, working nights at Whataburger near campus to pay rent. Late shifts found him behind the counter in an orange uniform, frying fries and flipping burgers, his green eyes tired but bright with dreams of the future. After graduation, Ethan landed a job at Hensel Phelps, a major construction firm in downtown Dallas, starting at $65,000 a year, enough for stability, but not enough for lavish vacations or fancy cars. He bought a green Ford Bronco on installments, lived in a simple apartment near work with Walmart furniture, and saved every penny to avoid leaning on his parents. The job wasn't easy. Long days under Texas's searing sun, hard hat on, reviewing blueprints and overseeing workers at construction sites. But Ethan never complained. He loved his work, loved building something tangible with his hands. Ethan's looks always turned heads, tall and broad-shouldered like an athlete, with emerald green eyes that sparkled in the sun and a rugged tan from outdoor work. He was handsome in that classic American way. Strong, weathered, but unpretentious. Ethan didn't care for bars or clubs. He hated loud music and the stench of liquor. Gambling and flashy pastimes weren't his thing either. Weekends, he'd rather sit in the backyard with Derek, sipping Coors Light and watching football on TV than chase shallow thrills. To him, love was sacred, and Sophia was the only one he wanted to spend his life with. "I don't need money or fame," he once told Derek over beers under a McKinney moon, his voice steady and warm. "I just want a little family, and Sophia's everything I've ever dreamed of." Sophia Bennett grew up in a different world, one of wealth, privilege, and boundless opportunity. The Bennett home outside Dallas wasn't just a house. It was a sprawling estate with sturdy red brick walls, Spanish tile roofs blazing under the sun, and an infinity pool overlooking endless green fields. Inside, The living room gleamed with white marble floors. Soaring ceilings held Swarovski chandeliers twinkling like stars, and abstract paintings worth tens of thousands adorned the walls. The massive kitchen boasted a black granite island, a sub-zero fridge, and a Wusthof knife collection Eleanor proudly showed off to guests. This was the domain of Larry Bennett, a real estate mogul with a fortune in the tens of millions, who turned Dallas's barren lots into upscale enclaves like Highland Park and Preston Hollow. Larry was a towering man with salt and pepper hair swept back neatly and a booming voice like thunder, always in bespoke suits, even strolling the ranch. He doted on his only daughter, bragging to buddies at Dallas Country Club golf outings. "Sophia's my gem. Smart, gorgeous, and she makes me proud." Eleanor, Sophia's mom, was a refined woman with a sharp auburn bob and impeccable style. She'd glide into Dallas charity galas with a pricey Hermes Birkin bag and Manolo Blahnik heels, her charming smile lighting up the room. They didn't just give Sophia a cushy life. They gave her a launch pad to soar higher than her peers. Sophia inherited her mother's beauty and her father's drive. With long, wavy dark brown hair down her back, big amber eyes that glowed under lights, and a smile that could melt anyone, she was the star of Allen High. Sophia wasn't just pretty, she was sharp, dynamic, and ambitious. On the debate team, she won first place at a state competition with a speech on climate change, earning a standing ovation. She graduated valedictorian, snagging a full ride to UT Austin, where she earned a computer science degree with honors. Post-college, Sophia joined an international AI tech firm in Austin, a booming company with billion-dollar projects. Earning over $120,000 her first year, she bought a sleek black Tesla Model Y, indulged in uptown Dallas spa days for her flawless skin, and filled her closet with Gucci, Prada, and Lululemon. She loved morning jogs along the Trinity River with AirPods, sipping pumpkin spice lattes at Magnolia Bakery in the evenings, and weekend shopping sprees at North Park Center, dropping thousands without blinking. Sophia wasn't arrogant, but she was confident. A confidence born from a life of luxury and being endlessly indulged. She liked control, from her desk lined with neat Montblanc pens to her weekends with friends, every hour scheduled on Google Calendar. Pals teased her as a control freak, but she'd laugh. "I like things perfect. What's wrong with that?" What drew her to Ethan wasn't his looks or talent, but his rare sincerity. "He's not like the guys at school," she once confided to Rachel, her high school bestie, over lattes at Starbucks near work. "Ethan's not fake. He's real with me, and that makes me feel safe." Though their love was genuine, not everyone bought it. In McKinney, where the Sullivans lived, neighbors whispered whenever Sophia's shiny black Tesla parked outside Ethan's house before the wedding. Old Betty, a neighbor who knitted on her creaky rocking chair porch, smirked. "Ethan hit the lottery. His family's dirt poor, and now he's marrying a Bennett." Probably after the money. Carl, Tom's buddy, slurred over beers at Rusty Taco after a few Coors Lights. "Ethan's a good kid, but you think he's marrying Sophia for what? We can't even buy my grandson a bike, and the Bennetts got them a penthouse in Dallas." Those words stabbed at Tom and Maggie's pride like invisible knives. Tom, usually quiet, sipped his Shiner Bock, knuckles white around the bottle, eyes distant as he hid his hurt. Maggie couldn't mask her sting. One day, baking pecan pies in their tiny kitchen with a buzzing old oven, she sighed to Ethan. "I don't want folks thinking you're with Sophia for money. We're poor, but I raised you honest, not leaning on anyone." Ethan, across the scratched wooden table, took her hand, his voice warm and firm. "Don't worry, Mom. I love Sophia for real. Money can't buy how I feel. I'll prove it to everyone." Across Dallas, Sophia's friends had their own takes. Callie, the cousin from the wedding, texted her post-honeymoon via iMessage. "Soph, you sure about Ethan? He's hot, but your family's loaded. What if he's just leaning on you?" Sophia scoffed, replying on her iPhone 14 Pro Max. "Callie, he works harder than anyone I know. Ethan's not like that." But deep down, those doubts sometimes crept in. Did Ethan love her for her, or the glow of her family's wealth? She pushed it aside, telling herself their love was strong enough to silence the naysayers. Rachel, Sophia's high school confidant, mused over brunch at Breadwinners. "Soph, I don't doubt Ethan. But be careful. Sometimes love isn't enough to bridge the money gap. Sophia sipped her mimosa, her brown eyes glinting under the restaurant lights, replying confidently, Rachel, Ethan doesn't need my money. He's got more pride than any guy I've met. I trust him. Yet in a quiet corner of her soul, a seed of doubt sprouted, though she fought to ignore it. Despite their differences in background and temperament, Ethan and Sophia began their marriage in days as sweet as Texas honey, dripping over hot cornbread. Their Deep Ellum penthouse, with its vast windows framing the Dallas skyline, became their cozy nest. Evenings they cooked together under bright LED kitchen lights, Ethan searing steaks on a cast-iron skillet, the savory aroma mixing with cheerful sizzles, his strong hands flipping meat with ease. Sophia beside him tossed arugula with homemade balsamic dressing, her delicate fingers moving like a dance, dark curls bouncing as she laughed. They'd sink into their soft brown leather sofa, watching on The Mandalorian on a 65-inch OLED TV, hands clasped, Sophia's head resting on Ethan's shoulder like a kitten seeking warmth. Weekends, they'd drive Ethan's Bronco to McKinney to visit Tom and Maggie, stopping at Buc-ee's, Texas's roadside mecca, for beef jerky, Dr. Pepper, and gummy bears Sophia nibbled en route. Tom greeted them in the backyard, strumming old Willie Nelson tunes on his weathered guitar, while Maggie brought out a tray of steaming pecan pies, their sweet scent filling the air. Eat up, don't be shy, she'd laugh, wiping sweat with her worn apron. I made these just for you two. Ethan hugged her, whispering, Thanks, Mom. Sophia and I love it. Other times they'd visit the Bennett Ranch, where Larry fired up the massive Weber grill for more BBQ. Beef ribs sizzling, white smoke curling into the crisp air. Eleanor sat at the outdoor wooden table, sharing tales of her Houston youth in a gentle breeze-like voice. I worked at a little flower shop back then. Never thought I'd meet your dad there. Sophia smiled, leaning into Ethan, her eyes sparkling at him in the soft golden light. Some nights they dined at Al Biernet's, a posh Dallas chop house. Under dim lighting, Ethan savored a medium-rare Wagyu steak, its tender red center melting under the knife, while Sophia sipped a bold Cabernet Sauvignon, its rich flavor lingering. They chatted about small plans, fixing the balcony, getting a golden retriever, or a winter trip to Colorado. In those moments, their happiness seemed secure, a precious gem nothing could shatter. Friends envied them. Derek joked over beers at Lockhart Smokehouse. Ethan, you're living like a king. Hot wife, sweet pad. What's left to wish for? Sophia laughed, her clear voice rising over the bar's country tunes. Derek, he's my king, but I'm his queen too. You know. Ethan squeezed her hand under the table, his Texas sunshine smile lighting up the corner. Yet behind those smiles, both carried unseen burdens. Ethan driven to prove he wasn't a gold digger, Sophia striving to keep their life as perfect as her mental blueprint. Though happy, tiny cracks began seeping into their world. Ethan loved simplicity, a night at home with Domino's pizza and ESPN football, feet propped on their beat-up coffee table. Sophia craved glamour, cocktail dresses for upscale dinners, or driving her Tesla to a Taylor Swift concert at American Airlines Center. Ethan didn't complain, but he'd quietly sigh when she dragged him to her rich friends' parties, where talk of yachts and Bahamas vacations left him out of place. Sophia noticed but stayed silent. She loved Ethan's authenticity, yet wondered if he could fit into her world. He doesn't need to change, she told herself, tracing her sparkling wedding ring. But I want him more confident, so no one dares say he's not good enough. Ethan just wished Sophia saw he didn't need wealth or status. He needed her, and a simple life like his McKinney roots. These tensions were small, like sand in a shoe, not immediately painful, but quietly abrasive. And those grains, like an unnoticed prophecy, waited to pile into a storm, poised to sweep away the happiness they just built. After a romantic honeymoon in Kauai, Hawaii, where Ethan and Sophia immersed themselves in the turquoise waves of Poipu Beach, sipped Mai Tai cocktails under a blazing sunset, and fell asleep to the soothing sound of waves at the Grand Hyatt Resort, they returned to Dallas with hearts brimming with joy. Their penthouse apartment in Deep Ellum, with its small balcony draped in vibrant purple lavender and floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking a skyline twinkling with lights, became their first shared nest. The early days of marriage felt like a sweet country song, filled with high notes of happiness, gentle melodies of love, and the steady rhythm of a new life beginning. Evenings in the penthouse were a perfect portrait of togetherness. The modern kitchen, aglow with bright white LED lights, turned into a stage for Ethan and Sophia's culinary duets. Ethan, with his strong hands and tall frame, stood over a cast-iron skillet searing steaks, each piece of red wagyu sizzling on the flame, its rich aroma wafting through the air, mingling with Sophia's crisp laughter. She stood beside him, her slender hands deftly tossing an arugula salad with homemade balsamic dressing, her wavy brown hair bouncing lightly as she tilted her head to hum along to music streaming from the Bose Bluetooth speaker on the shelf. "You grill better than any restaurant in Dallas," Sophia teased, sneaking a bite of meat from the plate, her brown eyes sparkling with mischief. Ethan chuckled, his deep voice rumbling. "Then you owe this chef a tip." He leaned down to kiss her forehead, leaving a tender look that made Sophia's heart skip a beat. After dinner, they'd often lounge on the soft brown leather sofa in the living room, legs tangled together like carefree kids. The 65-inch OLED TV mounted on the wall played new episodes of The Mandalorian on Disney+, its flickering light dancing across Ethan's sun-kissed face and Sophia's smooth skin. "Baby Yoda's so cute, isn't he?" Sophia whispered, resting her head on Ethan's shoulder, her hand locked tightly in his as if she never wanted to let go. Ethan nodded, stroking her hair gently. "Yeah, but not as cute as you." They giggled, their laughter echoing through the quiet apartment like a simple symphony of happiness. Weekends were reserved for family visits, a habit that quickly became a tradition. They'd drive Ethan's deep green Ford Bronco to McKinney, where Tom and Maggie Sullivan awaited with open arms. Along the way, they'd stop at Buc-ee's, the Texas road trip mecca, to grab spicy beef jerky, a frosty Dr. Pepper for Ethan, and a bag of gummy bears for Sophia to nibble on from the passenger seat. When they arrived, Tom would often be in the backyard with his old guitar, strumming Johnny Cash tunes, his gravelly voice carrying through the breeze. "Hey, you two made it. Come eat something." Maggie, in her Texas flag apron, would bring out a tray of steaming pecan pie, the sweet scent of brown sugar and melted butter filling the air. "I made this just for you two," she'd say with a big smile, wiping sweat from her brow. "Dig in, don't be shy." Ethan hugged his mom, voice thick with emotion. "Thanks, Mom." "Sophia and I love it." Sophia, sitting nearby, took a bite, her pink lips curving into a smile. "Maggie, this is better than any fancy bakery in Dallas." Maggie beamed, patting her shoulder. "My daughter-in-law's got a sweet tongue. Eat up. I'll make more for you to take home." Those moments, filled with laughter and the aroma of pie, painted the warm family picture Ethan had dreamed of since he was a kid. Then they'd head to the Bennett Ranch, where Larry and Eleanor welcomed them with characteristic generosity. Larry, in a red plaid shirt and faded jeans, stood by a massive Weber grill, cooking beef ribs and spicy sausages, white smoke curling into the crisp country air. "Get over here, Ethan," he'd boom, his voice like thunder. "My son-in-law's got to try these ribs. I marinated them all night." Ethan grinned, stepping up to help flip the meat, the BBQ spices and sizzling sounds making his mouth water. Eleanor sat at the wooden outdoor table in a breezy green silk dress, recounting tales of her youth in Houston. "Back then, I worked at a little flower shop. Never thought I'd meet your dad there. Life's funny, isn't it?" Sophia leaned against Ethan, her eyes sparkling in the soft golden sunlight. "I never thought I'd meet Ethan either, Mom." Larry clapped Ethan on the shoulder, laughing heartily. "This kid's damn lucky to snag my daughter." Ethan nodded, his voice steady and warm. "Yes, sir, I know. I'll take good care of Sophia. Don't worry." Those afternoons, with laughter echoing across the fields and the smoky scent of grilled meat, were a testament to their solid love, at least in everyone's eyes. Beyond family trips, Ethan and Sophia loved exploring Dallas together. They'd take Sophia's Tesla Model Y to Clyde Warren Park on Sunday mornings, bringing a picnic blanket and 2 cups of coffee from Houndstooth Coffee. Under the shade of sprawling oaks, they'd stretch out on the grass, watching white clouds drift lazily across the deep blue sky. "Did you ever think we'd live like this?" Sophia asked, twirling a blade of grass, her brown eyes gazing at Ethan with curiosity. He smiled, brushing her cheek. No, I never dared dream this big. But now I have you, and that's enough. Sophia grinned, pulling him down for a quick, sweet kiss, like vanilla ice cream on a summer day. Some days they'd catch a movie at Cinemark West Plano, picking a light rom-com like The Proposal. In the dim theater, Sophia rested her head on Ethan's shoulder, clutching a tub of buttery popcorn and whispering, "What do you have in common with Ryan Reynolds?" Ethan chuckled. "Maybe that I love you as much as he loves Sandra Bullock." They left the theater laughing, hand in hand, stepping out into Plano's shimmering streetlights, feeling like the world was theirs. But happiness wasn't just sweet moments. It came with family expectations, too. Tom and Maggie, with their traditional Texas mindset, started nudging Ethan and Sophia about kids right after the first month of marriage. One afternoon in McKinney, as the family sat around the table with fried chicken and mashed potatoes, Tom spoke up, his voice low and steady. "Ethan, you and Sophia have been married a month now. When are you going to give us some grandkids to hold?" Maggie nodded eagerly, eyes lighting up. "Exactly. I'm getting old. I want to hear little ones in the house before I'm too tired to play with them." Ethan gave an awkward laugh, gripping his Dr. Pepper. "We're thinking about it, but not yet, Mom and Dad. We just got married. We want to enjoy ourselves a bit more." Sophia chimed in, her tone gentle. "Ethan and I are still young. Don't worry, we'll have kids when we're ready." But Maggie wasn't deterred. She set a plate of cornbread on the table, looking at Sophia with longing. "I know you two want to have fun, but a grandbaby would make this house even happier. Look at Derek next door. He's got two already." Ethan glanced at Sophia, catching her forced smile. But he stayed quiet. He knew she wasn't ready. The pressure was even heavier at the Bennetts. Larry, a successful man who wanted his family perfect, didn't hesitate to voice his opinion whenever Ethan and Sophia visited. One evening at the ranch, as they sat around a fire pit, Larry took a sip of Maker's Mark whiskey and said loudly, "Sophia, you and Ethan should have a kid. I want a little boy to teach how to ride horses and grill BBQ like me." Eleanor, beside him with a glass of white wine, smiled softly. "And I'd love a granddaughter to sew dresses for. Callie's little girl is 2 and so adorable, Sophia." Sophia sighed, keeping her tone light. "Slow down, Mom and Dad. Ethan and I want to enjoy being just us for a while. Work's busy, and Ethan's focusing on his career too." Larry raised an eyebrow, looking at Ethan. "What do you think, son-in-law? A man's not complete without kids." Ethan nodded vaguely, his voice low. "I want that too, but we need time, sir." Larry laughed, slapping his shoulder. "Time? Life's short, kid. Don't keep me waiting too long." Sophia glanced at Ethan, seeing his strained smile. But she didn't argue. She just fiddled with her wedding ring in silence. Truthfully, Sophia didn't want kids yet. She loved Ethan, loved their life, the free evenings, spontaneous trips, and her thriving tech career. "We're still young," she told Ethan one night in bed, moonlight spilling across her face. "I'm 26. You're 27. Why rush into kids? I want to travel with you. Live for us a little longer." Ethan nodded, stroking her hair. "I'm not in a hurry either. As long as you're happy, I'm good." He didn't say it, but deep down, he wanted kids, not because of family pressure, but because he dreamed of a little family like the one he'd grown up with in McKinney. Still, he respected Sophia and wouldn't push her. Though their early marriage overflowed with joy, both Ethan and Sophia sensed it wouldn't last forever. Ethan, practical from a childhood of hardship, knew life always had challenges. "Nothing's permanent, Soph," he'd said one night on the balcony, sipping Lone Star beer and watching the city lights. "We're happy today, but what about tomorrow? I just hope we stick together, no matter what." Sophia smiled, leaning into him. "You worry too much. We love each other. That's enough." But Sophia wasn't as carefree as she seemed. A control freak at heart, she liked keeping everything in check. Work, finances, even marriage. She didn't want to dwell on tough times, but sometimes she wondered, would Ethan change? Would their love survive their differences in background and personality? She pushed those thoughts away, telling herself they were young, with time to enjoy, and nothing could break this happiness. Their friends noticed it too. Derek, Over beers at Lockhart Smokehouse, once told Ethan, "You and Sophia are a great pair, but marriage isn't always roses. You're so different. You're simple. She's fancy." "Watch out," Ethan laughed, clapping his back. "Thanks for the heads up, Derek, but I think we'll be fine." Rachel, Sophia's best friend, warned her over brunch at Breadwinners. "Soph, Ethan's great, but keep an eye out. Guys can change when life gets heavy." Sophia shrugged, sipping her mimosa. "Rachel, Ethan's not like that. We'll be okay. But life, like a Netflix series, is never as simple as its first episodes." Ethan and Sophia's happy days, sweet and bright as Texas sunshine, were quietly gathering storm clouds. Small cracks they hadn't noticed, differences they hadn't faced. And when the first winds blew, that seemingly solid happiness would start to waver, revealing challenges neither of them could have foreseen. In the first few months after the wedding, the penthouse in Deep Ellum, Dallas, was a little paradise for Ethan, Sullivan, and Sophia Bennett. But as the glow of their honeymoon faded, those honey-sweet Texas days began to take on the gray tint of reality. Love, once as radiant as summer sunshine, now wavered under the pressures of life. Differences in personality, unspoken expectations, and quiet shifts in the hearts of two people who had once vowed to stay together forever. The change started around the 5th month of their marriage, as autumn draped Dallas in a thin veil of fog and cool breezes. Ethan, the man who once clung to Sophia like a loyal puppy, grew quiet and distant. The evenings in their modern kitchen, where he used to grill steaks and tease her with surprise kisses, now passed in silence. He still stood by the cast-iron skillet, flipping meat with his strong hands. But the bright smile that once lit up the room was gone. In its place was a calm face, his deep green eyes now empty, staring into some undefined void. Sophia first noticed the shift on a Tuesday night when she walked into the living room in a sheer white silk nightgown, her wavy brown hair cascading naturally. She sat on the sofa, resting her head on Ethan's shoulder as usual, sipping a glass of red wine slowly. But Ethan didn't respond like he used to. No arm around her, no stroking her hair, not even a glance. He just sat there, eyes glued to the TV screen showing a Cowboys versus Eagles football game, a cold Lone Star beer in hand. "What's wrong?" Sophia asked, her voice soft but tinged with worry. "You're so quiet today." Ethan shrugged, his tone low. "Nothing. I'm just tired." He didn't look at her, took a sip of beer, and kept staring at the screen. That curt reply felt like a small knife twisting in Sophia's chest. She forced a smile, telling herself he was just stressed from work at Hensel Phelps. Long days on construction sites under Texas's blazing sun or sudden rain could exhaust anyone. But Ethan's coldness didn't stop there. The little intimacies that had been their routine, the surprise hugs from behind, light kisses on her forehead, or pulling her close during movies, faded away. He no longer reached for her hand during walks in Clydewarn Park, stopped whispering, "I love you," before bed. And, most painfully for Sophia, they hadn't been intimate in over a month. The last time they were close was a stormy night in early October, with thunder cracking across the Dallas sky. Sophia, in a sultry black silk nightgown, had pulled Ethan to bed, her hands tracing his firm chest, her lips seeking his in the dark. Ethan responded, but without the passion he once had. It felt mechanical, like fulfilling a duty rather than savoring the moment. When it was over, he turned away, pulled the blanket over his shoulder, and fell asleep without a word. Sophia lay there staring blankly at the ceiling, her heart heavy as if crushed by a stone. Since then, he hadn't initiated anything. Each time she hinted, he'd shake his head, voice flat. "I'm too tired, Soph. Maybe tomorrow." But tomorrow never came. Ethan's coldness blew through Sophia's heart like a chilling wind, shifting her from confusion to frustration, then spiraling into self-doubt and anxiety. She couldn't understand what was happening. The man who once looked at her like she was his world had become a stranger in their own home. During those quiet evenings, as Ethan sat watching TV or scrolling his phone, Sophia felt an invisible wall between them, one she couldn't break, no matter how hard she tried. Her frustration boiled over. One Friday night, When Ethan brushed off her suggestion to dine at Al Biernat's with "I'm not hungry," Sophia snapped. She stood in the living room, hands on hips, voice sharp. "Ethan, what's wrong with you? You don't talk to me, don't touch me, don't even look at me anymore. Are you tired of me or what?" Ethan looked up from the sofa, his green eyes dulled by fatigue, voice low. "Soph, don't make a big deal out of it. I just need some quiet." But that only fueled her anger. "Quiet?" she yelled, her wavy brown hair flying as she spun around. "If you want quiet, go live alone somewhere. I'm not a shadow you can ignore or ditch whenever you feel like it." She stormed into the bedroom, slamming the door so hard the sound echoed through the apartment like a declaration of war. But after the anger came self-doubt. Sophia started studying herself in the bathroom mirror, the large one framed with LED lights, reflecting a face that had once turned heads. She was still beautiful, with big sparkling brown eyes and porcelain smooth skin, but she wondered, am I fading? She ran her fingers through her wavy brown hair, noticing a few dry strands from work stress. She glanced at her slim waist in the silk nightgown, reassuring herself, I haven't gained weight. So why doesn't Ethan want me anymore? That insecurity gnawed at her pride like a venomous snake. Sophia didn't dare confide in anyone. Not Rachel, not Callie, no one. She feared judgment, terrified they'd say she wasn't good enough to keep her husband. Instead, she turned to Google, typing phrases like, husband distant after marriage, men not wanting intimacy with wife, or signs of cheating. Her iPhone 14 Pro Max lit up with articles from Cosmopolitan, Reddit, and WebMD, each offering theories that deepened her panic. Is he struggling with performance, or does he have someone else? She read until midnight, the screen's blue light illuminating her pale face, her heart pounding with dread. Then she tried to calm herself. No way, she muttered, shutting off her phone and lying back in bed. Ethan loved me so fiercely once. He's not the cheating type. He doesn't go to bars, doesn't text secretly. There's no sign. She recalled their early days when he'd hug her from behind in the kitchen, whispering, I can't live without you, with fervent passion. She told herself he was just tired and that things would return to normal. But deep down, a seed of doubt had sprouted, though she tried to bury it beneath layers of trust. Ethan's distance wasn't limited to silent evenings. He started coming home later, blaming overtime at Hensel Phelps. The uptown building project's on a tight deadline, he'd tell Sophia over the phone, his voice flat. I have to stay and review blueprints with the team. She nodded, but when he walked in at 9 p.m., the scent of machine oil and dirt on his Carhartt jacket couldn't erase her unease. Is he telling the truth, she wondered, but didn't ask. She feared an answer that might shatter the perfect picture she clung to. Their family visits dwindled too. Once when Maggie called to ask, You two coming for BBQ this weekend? Ethan shook his head, tone indifferent. I'm too busy, Mom. Next time. Sophia stared at him, her brown eyes flashing with disappointment. Busy with what? Your mom really misses us. Ethan shrugged, avoiding her gaze. I need to rest. Go by yourself if you want. Sophia fell silent, but inside, she burned. He wasn't just pulling away from her, but from family too. Something she'd never seen in the man who once cherished them above all. Their outing stopped too. One Saturday night, Sophia slipped into a stunning red cocktail dress and shimmering Louboutin heels, standing before the bedroom mirror and calling out, Ethan, want to catch some music at House of Blues with me? There's a great country band. Ethan, sprawled on the sofa in an old tee and jeans, shook his head. I don't like noise. Go with Rachel. Sophia bit her lip, keeping her voice steady. But I want to go with you. Ethan sighed, sounding drained. Soph, I'm not in the mood. Go alone. She turned, walking out with tears welling up, the click of her heels on the hardwood floor like hammer strikes to her heart. Ethan's coldness plunged Sophia into an emotional spiral with no escape. She started noticing every little thing, how he set his phone face down, locked the screen faster than usual, or avoided her eyes when speaking. Is he hiding something, she wondered, hands trembling as she held her morning coffee at Houndstooth, staring blankly at the Dallas streets. She tried to salvage things. One night she wore the black silk nightgown that drove him wild during their honeymoon, standing before him as he watched TV. "Ethan, want to come upstairs with me?" She smiled, aiming for a lure, but he barely glanced at her, voice flat. "Not tonight, Soph. Maybe tomorrow." Sophia froze, her smile fading, her heart constricting. She turned away, tears streaming down her cheeks, but hid them. She didn't want him to see her weakness. Her confusion grew as she compared Ethan to other men in her life. Over brunch, Rachel once gushed, "Nick's always all over me. Some nights he wants it twice." Sophia forced a laugh, but inside it cut like a knife. Ethan didn't want her, while her friend's husband couldn't get enough. "Am I not attractive enough?" she wondered, gripping her mimosa until her knuckles whitened. She even entertained darker possibilities. "Is he cheating?" she thought, then dismissed it. Ethan showed no signs of infidelity, no late-night outings, no sneaky texts, no strange perfume on his clothes. His phone still used their wedding date, June 15th, as the passcode, which she knew. But his coldness was real, and it made her feel like she was losing him day by day, even though he was right there. Ethan didn't voice it, but he was under his own pressures. Work at Hensel Phelps was grueling. He oversaw a major uptown project, poring over blueprints and enduring tense meetings with his boss. He came home with aching shoulders, dust clinging to his clothes, and a mind too blank to engage. He didn't want to upset Sophia, but he couldn't explain that he was drained, physically and emotionally. Their differences grew starker too. Sophia craved glamorous nights out and lavish trips, while he just wanted quiet evenings with a beer and the TV. When she dragged him to her friends' parties, wealthy Dallasites chatting about yachts and Aspen vacations, he felt out of place. He didn't belong in her world, and he began to wonder if he was truly enough for her. Meanwhile, Sophia didn't realize her controlling nature, always wanting him to follow her lead, from how he dressed to how he spent his time, was suffocating him. She thought she was pulling him closer, but she was pushing him away. Small arguments flared up, like gusts signaling a storm. Once, when she asked, "Do you even love me anymore?" Ethan sighed, weary. "Sophia, don't ask that. I'm still here, aren't I?" But that wasn't enough to soothe her bleeding heart. Their life, once as bright as Texas sunshine, was now shrouded in gray clouds. The happiness they'd once held tight was slipping through their fingers, and neither knew how to hold on. Tiny cracks had formed in their marriage, and like fragile glass, it would only take one hard blow to shatter it completely. Autumn in Dallas had already passed its halfway mark, bringing with it chilly breezes and sudden rain showers that dampened the streets of Deep Ellum. In the luxurious penthouse apartment, the air between Ethan Sullivan and Sophia Bennett grew heavier by the day, like a storm cloud hovering over the sky of their marriage. Ethan, with his increasingly evident coldness and detachment, had become a stranger in Sophia's eyes. She no longer recognized the man who used to wrap his arms around her from behind in the kitchen, whispering, "I love you," in a voice brimming with passion. And in that confusion, Sophia began seeking advice. Not from her husband, but from those around her, hoping to find a glimmer of light amid the thick fog. For over a month, Sophia had endured Ethan's indifference. The silent evenings on the sofa, the curt rejections when she suggested intimacy, and the late nights he came home with the excuse of working overtime. She felt as though she were standing before an impenetrable concrete wall. She had tried everything to pull him closer, wearing seductive lingerie, cooking elaborate dinners with steak and red wine, even initiating a hug from behind as he washed his hands in the kitchen. But all her efforts were in vain. Ethan responded only with bland nods, short phrases like, "I'm tired," or worse, silence, his eyes glued to his phone or the TV as if she didn't exist. One Wednesday evening, as rain pattered against the penthouse windows, Sophia sat alone on the brown leather sofa, a glass of Cabernet Sauvignon in hand, her gaze distant as she watched raindrops streak down the glass. Ethan had returned from the Hensel Phelps construction site, but all he said was, "I'm going to shower," before disappearing into the bathroom. The sound of running water echoed from behind the closed door, but it wasn't enough to drown out the loneliness enveloping her. What did I do wrong, she wondered, her grip tightening on the glass stem until her knuckles turned white. Am I not good enough for him? Or does he just not love me anymore? The question swirled in her mind like a relentless whirlwind. Sophia didn't want to believe their marriage was falling apart. She remembered the early days, Ethan gazing at her with those green eyes sparkling with love, holding her hand tightly at the Cinemark Theater, or laughing heartily by the campfire at the Bennett family ranch. But now those moments were distant luxuries, replaced by a frigid silence and an unbridgeable gap. She wanted to scream, to smash something, to break the suffocating tension, but she didn't dare. She feared that if she did, Ethan would walk away from her forever. Unable to bear it any longer, Sophia decided to seek advice from outsiders. She didn't dare confide in her family. Larry and Eleanor would be furious with Ethan, and Maggie would worry herself sleepless. She also held off on telling Rachel, her best friend, fearing judgment or escalation. Instead, she turned to Lauren, an older colleague from the tech company in Austin whom she often met during virtual meetings or short business trips to Dallas. Lauren, around 40, was a strong woman with short, pixie-cut blonde hair, always dressed in a navy blazer and stylish round-frame glasses. Married for 15 years to an oil engineer in Houston, she often shared funny family anecdotes during lunch breaks. Sophia had always admired Lauren's confidence and experience. So one Thursday morning, she pulled Lauren aside to a corner of Houndstooth Coffee near the Dallas branch office to open up. Under the warm golden glow of the cafe, amid the rich aroma of roasted coffee and the hum of the grinder, Sophia sat across from Lauren, cradling a hot latte, her voice soft. "Lauren, can I ask you something a little personal? Has your husband ever been cold to you?" Lauren raised an eyebrow, sipped her cappuccino, and laughed heartily. "Cold? Sophia, if my husband ever got cold, I'd have kicked him out ages ago. No, seriously, he's like a bull. Wants to be close to me every day, some nights even twice. I have to tell him to slow down or I won't keep up." Sophia forced a smile, but her heart felt like it was being sliced open. She looked down at her latte, her voice trembling. "So, what if he didn't want to anymore? I mean, what if he's not interested in his wife anymore?" Lauren set her cup down, her sharp eyes locking onto Sophia. "You mean Ethan? He doesn't want to be with you anymore?" Sophia nodded slowly, her brown eyes shimmering with tears. "It's been over a month, Lauren. I don't know what's wrong with him. He doesn't say anything, just that he's tired. But I don't believe that's the only reason." Lauren sighed, leaning back in her chair, her tone lowering. "Listen, Sophia, when a man changes like that, there are a few possibilities. One, he's genuinely tired. Work, stress, something weighing him down. Two, he's got a health issue, low libido or something, but men don't usually admit that. Three, he's got someone else." Sophia flinched, her hand trembling enough to ripple the latte, her voice breaking. "No, Ethan wouldn't cheat. He doesn't show any signs, no weird texts, no late nights out, no perfume smells." Lauren shrugged. "Then it could be the first two. But you need to talk to him straight. Men don't like beating around the bush. Ask him point blank and see what he says." The conversation with Lauren didn't ease Sophia's mind. It only deepened her confusion. Comparing Ethan to Lauren's husband made her feel like she was failing to keep her own. Her husband wants her every day, she thought, gripping the steering wheel of her Tesla Model Y on the drive home. And Ethan looks at me like I'm a piece of furniture. What am I doing wrong? Her self-doubt grew, a dark shadow creeping over her soul. Unable to bottle it up any longer, Sophia finally turned to Rachel, her high school best friend, always ready to listen and offer blunt advice, sometimes a bit harsh. One Saturday afternoon, when Ethan said he had to work late at Hensel Phelps, Sophia texted Rachel, "Brunch with me? I need to talk." Rachel replied instantly, "Okay, Breadwinners, 1 p.m. Spill all the drama." At Breadwinners, a popular uptown Dallas spot with rustic red brick walls and the comforting smell of freshly baked bread, Sophia sat across from Rachel in a pale yellow floral maxi dress, her brown eyes hidden behind aviator sunglasses to mask the dark circles. Rachel, with her ombre blonde-brown hair and tight white crop top, sipped a mimosa, her tone curious. "All right, spill. You look like you got hit by a truck. What's Ethan done now?" Sophia sighed, fiddling with the wedding ring on her left hand. Ethan's been cold to me for over a month, Rach. He doesn't talk, doesn't touch me, nothing. We haven't been together in over a month. I don't know what's wrong with him. Rachel raised an eyebrow, setting her mimosa down with a clink, her voice firm. Listen, Sophia, when a guy changes like that, 99% of the time there's a problem. Could he have someone else? Sophia shook her head frantically, her voice shaky. No, no way. Ethan's not that kind of guy. He goes to work and comes home. No bars, no sneaky texts. Rachel smirked, her eyes sharp. You're too naive. Men don't need to hit bars or text, obviously, to cheat. It could be a coworker, an old friend, someone you'd never suspect. Have you checked his phone? Sophia nodded. Yeah, the password's our anniversary. I got in. Nothing weird, just work texts with his boss and dumb stuff with guys like Derek. Rachel tapped the table, resolute. Then confront him. Ask him straight up what's going on. If he won't talk, you've got to dig it out. Don't let him lead you around, Soph. Rachel's words lit a spark of suspicion in Sophia's heart. Driving home, she couldn't stop thinking about Ethan cheating. Though she didn't want to believe it, the seed Rachel planted had begun to sprout. She resolved to confront him that night, her heart pounding with dread. When Ethan got home at 8 p.m., his Carhartt jacket dusted with dirt and his green eyes weary, Sophia was waiting in the living room. Dressed in an oversized gray sweater and jeans, her curly brown hair tied up, her gaze was steady but anxious. As Ethan set his bag on the table, she stood, her voice trembling. Ethan, sit down. We need to talk. He frowned but complied, slumping onto the sofa with reluctance. What now, Soph? Sophia took a deep breath, hands clasped tightly. What's wrong with you, Ethan? You don't talk to me, don't touch me, nothing. We haven't been together in over a month. Are you tired of me? Ethan sighed, leaning back, his tone flat. Soph, don't make a big deal out of it. I'm tired from work. You know that. Sophia leaned forward, her voice rising. Tired? You always say you're tired, but you've got someone else, don't you? Are you cheating? Ethan raised an eyebrow, a flicker of surprise crossing his face, but then he smirked coldly. Cheating? You've got quite an imagination. I'm not with anyone. Think what you want. Sophia clenched her fists, tears streaming down her cheeks. Then why don't you want me anymore? You don't love me, do you? Ethan paused, then stood, his voice detached. I don't want to fight, Soph. I'm going to bed. He walked to the bedroom, leaving Sophia there, her heart shattered into 100 pieces. Ethan's dismissive response didn't soothe Sophia's pain. It only fueled her doubts. If he's not cheating, why won't he explain? She wondered, sobbing into her hands in the dark living room. Rachel's words echoed in her mind. Could be a coworker, an old friend, someone you'd never suspect. She didn't want to believe it, but she couldn't deny Ethan was hiding something, and she was determined to uncover the truth, no matter how much it hurt. After the confrontation, Sophia began watching Ethan more closely. She checked his phone whenever he showered. Still nothing but work texts and banter with Derek. She texted Derek casually, How's Ethan been lately? Anything off? Derek replied, He's fine, just complains about being tired. Why? She brushed it off. No reason, just checking. But she wasn't convinced. Ethan's detachment couldn't just be exhaustion. She started tracking his schedule. One night, when Ethan said he'd be at the site late, Sophia drove her Tesla to Uptown, where Hensel Phelps was building. Under dim streetlights and the rumble of machinery, she saw Ethan there, hard hat on, discussing blueprints with workers. He didn't look like a man sneaking around, just one worn out from a long day. Yet when she got home, her suspicions lingered. If it wasn't an affair, what was pushing him away? Sophia turned to social media for answers. On Reddit's r/relationships, she posted anonymously, My husband's been distant for over a month, won't be intimate, but no signs of cheating. What do I do? Comments flooded in. Maybe he's depressed. Check his health. Men sometimes get bored of their wives without realizing it. Each reply stabbed at her, but none offered clarity. Amid her turmoil, Sophia ran into Callie, a cousin from her wedding, at North Park Center while shopping. Callie, in a beige trench coat and heeled boots, pulled Sophia into a Starbucks corner, curious. "Soph, you look like a ghost. What's up?" Sophia sighed, spilling everything. Ethan's coldness, the failed confrontation, the gnawing doubt. Callie frowned, sipping her latte. "Look, I don't want to scare you, but I've seen this before. My cousin acted the same. Distant for months, turned out he was cheating with a coworker. Be careful, Soph." Callie's words hit Sophia like a punch. She shook her head, voice shaky. "No, Ethan's not like that. He doesn't have time to cheat." Callie shrugged. "Believe what you want, but I'd dig deeper." "Don't get blindsided." The encounter left Sophia more conflicted. Lauren, Rachel, and Callie's advice rang in her ears like a haunting melody. After those talks, Sophia refused to stay passive. She couldn't live in doubt and pain forever. She needed answers, whatever they were. "If he's not cheating," she told herself, gripping the wheel on the drive back from North Park, "I have to find the real reason. I can't lose Ethan without knowing why." But she didn't realize that her quest for truth would lead her into an emotional labyrinth, where every step was a test, and every answer could break her heart anew. Winter was approaching Dallas, bringing persistent rain and a biting cold that seeped into every corner of the city. In the penthouse apartment in Deep Ellum, the atmosphere between Ethan Sullivan and Sophia Bennett grew increasingly stifling, like a storm quietly brewing over the horizon of their marriage. After the failed confrontation, when Ethan met Sophia's desperate questions with nothing but cold indifference, she was left with no choice but to seek answers on her own. Doubt, insecurity, and the fear of losing him propelled Sophia into an obsessive journey, scrutinizing Ethan step by step to uncover what he was hiding from her. After her encounter with Callie at North Park Center, her cousin's parting advice, "You need to dig deeper. Don't let yourself be blindsided," jolted Sophia out of her hesitation. She couldn't keep living in the dark, couldn't let her suspicions gnaw at her heart without taking action. "I need to know the truth," she told herself. Standing before the bathroom mirror on a dreary Monday morning, her brown eyes gleaming with resolve despite being bloodshot from sleepless nights. "Even if he's not cheating, I have to know why he's changed. I can't lose Ethan without understanding why." Sophia knew that investigating Ethan was a gamble. If he found out, he might get angry, maybe even leave her. But she had no other options. His coldness, his refusals of intimacy, and the way he avoided her gaze had driven her to the edge of despair. She needed answers, no matter how painful they might be. And so she began, not with the aggression of a detective, but with the caution of a wife desperately clinging to the happiness slipping through her fingers. Sophia's first step was to check Ethan's phone, something she'd done superficially before, but now she resolved to dig deeper. One Tuesday evening, while Ethan showered after a long day at the Hensel Phelps construction site, Sophia quietly grabbed his iPhone 12 from the coffee table in the living room. The passcode was still their wedding date, 0615, and she sighed in relief as the screen unlocked without issue. The blue glow illuminated her tense face, her trembling hands swiping through apps. Ethan's messages were as straightforward as she remembered. Short chats with Derek about football. Cowboys lost again. What a drag. And work texts with his boss like, meeting at the Uptown site tomorrow at 8. No strange numbers, no flirty messages, nothing suspicious. She opened Instagram, but Ethan barely used it. The last post was a photo of them in Hawaii, captioned, "Honeymoon with the love of my life." Sophia gave a bittersweet smile at the image. Ethan's radiant grin was now just a memory, but she didn't stop there. She opened the Safari browser and checked his web history. Most of it was mundane. ESPN for sports updates, Home Depot for construction tools, and YouTube videos on building techniques. Then one entry made her freeze. "Signs of depression in men. On WebMD, searched 2 weeks ago." Sophia frowned, her heart pounding. Depression? Is Ethan looking up depression? She skimmed the article. Persistent fatigue, loss of interest in favorite activities, withdrawal from loved ones, and a chill ran down her spine. The symptoms matched Ethan, but she didn't dare jump to conclusions. She snapped a screenshot, emailed it to herself, and erased her tracks before returning the phone to its spot. The shower stopped running, and Sophia hurried back to the sofa, pretending to scroll on her own iPhone as Ethan emerged, his wet hair falling over his forehead, dressed in a black t-shirt and gray sweatpants. He glanced at her, his voice flat. "Not asleep yet?" Sophia nodded, forcing a smile. "Not yet, just catching up on some news." "Sleep well." Ethan nodded and shuffled to the bedroom, leaving her with a storm of questions. If he's depressed, why didn't he tell me? She wondered, gripping her phone until it hurt. Checking his phone didn't ease Sophia's mind. It only drove her to see for herself what Ethan was doing when he wasn't home. One Thursday night, when he texted, "Staying late at the site, don't wait up," Sophia made her move. She donned a black trench coat and a gray knit beanie to cover her hair, then drove her Tesla Model Y to Uptown, where Hensel Phelps was working. A light rain fell, the streetlights hazy through the water-streaked windshield, casting a noir-like gloom. She parked a few blocks away, turned off the headlights, and watched from the shadows. Through the drizzle, she saw Ethan under the glare of large halogen lights, wearing a yellow hard hat, discussing blueprints with workers. His Carhartt jacket was dusted with dirt, his broad shoulders slumped with exhaustion. No women lingered nearby, no shady gestures, just a man at work, his face weary and his green eyes dulled under the lights. Sophia exhaled, but her heart remained heavy. "He's not cheating," she murmured, clutching the steering wheel. "But why won't he open up to me? Why does he leave me so alone?" She stayed for over an hour until Ethan entered the site's temporary office trailer. She drove home, rain streaking the windshield like the tears she held back. The image of Ethan, worn out in the rain, stirred both pity and anger. Pity that he was struggling alone, anger that he wouldn't let her in. Unsatisfied with what she'd seen, Sophia decided to ask Derek, Ethan's best friend since elementary school, someone who might know more than she did. On a Friday afternoon, she texted Derek to meet at Lockhart Smokehouse, a famous BBQ joint in Oak Cliff, filled with the smoky scent of brisket and lively country music. Derek arrived in a red plaid shirt and ripped jeans, holding a Miller Lite, grinning wide. "Sophia, long time no see. Where's Ethan that you're meeting me solo?" Sophia sat across from him, cradling a cold Dr. Pepper, her voice soft. "Derek, I need to ask about Ethan. Has he said anything to you lately? He's been so off, cold to me for over a month." Derek frowned, setting his beer down, his tone serious. "Off how?" "He's been complaining about being tired nonstop. Says work's brutal. The Uptown project's draining him. Overtime every week. I told him to take a break, but he won't listen." Sophia leaned forward, eyes lighting up. "That's it? Nothing else? About me? Or someone else?" Derek shook his head, his gaze earnest. "No, Soph. Ethan's not the type to hide big stuff. He loves you. Whenever we grab beers, he talks about you, like Sophia's steak beats any restaurant, or I'm lucky to have her. But lately he's quieter, probably stressed out. Talk to him straight. Don't just guess." Sophia nodded, but her mind was a tangled mess. Stress can't explain everything, she thought, sipping her Dr. Pepper, the cold sweetness failing to calm her unease. Not stopping there, Sophia dug deeper into Ethan's life through their shared bank account, in his email, passwords they had exchanged early in their marriage. One Saturday night, while Ethan slept soundly in the bedroom, Sophia sat at the desk in a corner of the living room, opening her laptop with its dim glow. She logged into their Chase bank account, scrolling through transactions, Ethan's Hensel Phelps paycheck, utility bills, Bronco loan payments. Nothing unusual. No large charges for fancy dinners, hotels, or expensive gifts. The classic signs of an affair. She moved to Ethan's email, using the password Texas Tech 27 he'd once shared. His inbox was packed with work emails. Revise the 15th floor blueprints. Meeting with contractors tomorrow at 7 a.m. No messages from unknown women. No love notes, nothing suspicious. But an email from 2 months ago caught her eye. A Fitbit notification. "You hit your 10,000-step goal today." Sophia frowned, recalling Ethan's Fitbit watch, which he rarely wore lately. She rummaged through his desk drawer, finding it buried under papers. She powered it on, synced it to her phone's app, and discovered his sleep data. For the past month, Ethan had barely slept, averaging 4 to 5 hours a night, with frequent wake-ups. "He's not sleeping," she whispered, her hands trembling as she studied the chaotic sleep chart. It aligned with the depression article from his web history. But she wasn't certain. Was this the sole reason, or just part of a bigger picture? Armed with her findings, Sophia resolved to confront Ethan again, not to accuse, but to understand. One Sunday night, as heavy rain battered the penthouse windows, Ethan sat on the sofa watching ESPN. Sophia approached, turned off the TV with the remote, her voice firm. "Ethan, stay there. We need to talk, and this time you're not dodging me." Ethan frowned, setting his Lone Star beer on the table, his tone weary. "What now, Soph?" "I don't want to fight." Sophia stood before him, hands on hips, eyes red. "I don't want to fight. I want to understand. You've been distant for over a month, won't touch me, won't talk, nothing. I checked your phone, saw you looked up depression. I saw you're barely sleeping, saw you're exhausted. What's wrong, Ethan? Do you not love me anymore? Or are you hiding something?" Ethan flinched, his green eyes flickering with alarm. But then he sighed, leaning back. "You checked me? You don't trust me that much?" Sophia broke down, her voice choking. "I didn't want to, but you gave me no choice. You don't say anything, don't explain, just leave me alone in this house. If you're depressed, why didn't you tell me? If you're tired, why won't you let me help? I'm your wife, Ethan." Ethan stayed silent, his fists clenched, staring at the floor. After a moment he spoke, his voice low. "I didn't want you to worry, Soph. Work's been hell, I'm burned out. But I don't know how to tell you. I just need quiet." Sophia knelt before him, grabbing his hands, tears streaming. "Quiet? You think leaving me in the dark like this is quiet? I thought you were cheating, thought you didn't love me. Don't you see how much I'm hurting?" Ethan met her gaze, his green eyes showing a spark of emotion for the first time in weeks. "I'm not cheating, Soph. I swear. I'm just not okay. I don't know how to get back to how it was." He pulled his hands away, standing, his voice hoarse. "I need time. Stop pushing me." He walked to the bedroom, shut the door, leaving Sophia crumpled on the floor, sobbing as the rain pounded outside. The confrontation didn't deliver the clarity Sophia craved. It only left her more confused. Ethan said he wasn't cheating, that he was exhausted and needed time, but the detachment in his voice kept her from fully believing him. If he's depressed, why not see a doctor? Why not let me help? She wondered, lying on the sofa all night, staring blankly at the ceiling. Yet she couldn't dismiss what she'd found. The sleep data, the depression article, Derek's confirmation. Maybe Ethan was telling the truth, but not the whole truth. Sophia didn't know what to do next. She checked Ethan every way she could. His phone, his job, his friends. But she still felt like she stood before a locked door with no key. She wanted to trust him, to help him, but his distance was an invisible wall, keeping her on the other side. And in that pain, she began to consider bolder steps. Steps that could either save their marriage or destroy it completely. Winter in Dallas had officially settled in, bringing with it a biting cold and persistent drizzle that soaked the cobblestone streets of Deep Ellum. In the luxurious penthouse apartment, the atmosphere between Ethan Sullivan and Sophia Bennett had reached a freezing point, not because of the temperature outside, but because of the distance between two hearts that once beat as one. After their second confrontation, when Sophia knelt before Ethan, begging for an explanation, his silence was like a final dagger plunged into her chest. But this time, she didn't give up. And it was that persistence that forced Ethan to break down the wall he'd built, revealing the painful truth he'd kept hidden for so long. After the night Sophia sobbed on the living room floor, Ethan could no longer avoid her. He knew she'd been checking up on him, his phone, his emails, even secretly following him to the uptown construction site. He wasn't angry at her for it. He understood that his coldness had driven her to the edge, but he didn't know how to voice the weight crushing his chest. Every time he looked into Sophia's red and brown eyes, he felt like a failure, a husband who couldn't make his wife happy, a man not strong enough to face himself. In the days following the confrontation, the air in the apartment grew so heavy it was suffocating. Ethan still went to work at Hensel Phelps, coming home late with slumped shoulders and a weary face. But he no longer sat watching TV or scrolling through his phone like before. Instead, he often stood alone on the balcony, clutching a cold Lone Star beer, staring out at the shimmering Dallas skyline. Sophia, meanwhile, stopped trying to pull him closer. She watched him silently from a distance, her heart shattered but still burning with a desperate need to understand what was happening. One Wednesday evening, as the drizzle fell lightly outside the window, Sophia sat on the sofa wrapped in a gray wool blanket, cradling a steaming mug of tea from Central Market. She gazed at Ethan standing on the balcony, his tall silhouette framed against the dark sky, and she knew she couldn't go on like this. "I have to do something," she told herself, setting the mug down on the table, her hands trembling with tension. She stood, took a deep breath, and stepped out onto the balcony. The first time in weeks she'd approached him without fear of rejection. A cold wind swept across the balcony, carrying the damp scent of rain and the faint lavender from the small pot Sophia had planted. Ethan stood there, hands gripping the railing, the beer in his grasp long since gone cold. He didn't turn when he heard Sophia's footsteps, but his shoulders tensed slightly, as if he knew this conversation was inevitable. Sophia stopped a few steps away, her voice soft but firm. "Ethan, I can't live like this anymore. You have to tell me, really tell me what's going on. If you don't love me anymore, just say it. I can handle it." Ethan stayed silent for a moment, his breath mingling with the cold air in fragile white wisps. Then he turned, his deep green eyes locking onto hers. The first time in months he truly looked at her without turning away. That gaze wasn't cold anymore. It was filled with pain and exhaustion. He set the beer can on the railing, his voice hoarse. "Soph, I don't want to hurt you, but you're right. I can't keep hiding forever." Sophia's heart pounded, her hands clutching the edge of her sweater. "Then tell me, Ethan. What are you hiding?" Ethan took a deep breath, his hands trembling as he leaned back against the railing, the streetlights casting a glow on his tanned face, now pale from sleepless nights. "I'm not cheating, Soph," he began, his voice low. "I swear to you, there's no one else, but I'm not okay. I haven't been okay for a long time." Sophia frowned, stepping closer, her voice shaky. "Not okay how? Are you sick? Is it work?" "Ethan, tell me clearly." He bowed his head, rubbing his face as if summoning courage. After a moment he looked up, his eyes red. "I think I'm depressed, Soph." "No, not think. I know I'm depressed. Work at Hensel Phelps. It's brutal. The Uptown project is the biggest I've ever handled. The boss demands too much. I'm working late, reviewing blueprints until 2 or 3 a.m. I can't sleep. I can't eat right. I don't feel joy anymore. Not even with you." He paused, his voice breaking. "I feel useless, Soph. I don't deserve you, this life." Sophia froze, tears streaming down her cheeks unnoticed. "Depression?" she whispered, hand covering her mouth. "Why didn't you tell me? Why did you go through it alone?" Ethan gave a sad, bitter smile. "How could I? I'm a man. I'm supposed to be strong. I didn't want you to think I was weak, didn't want you to worry. I thought if I toughed it out, it'd pass. But it didn't. It just got worse." He stepped closer, his voice rough. "You're beautiful, smart, successful. You have it all, Soph. And I'm just an ordinary engineer, busting my ass to keep up. I feel like I'm not good enough for you, not enough to make you happy. Every time I look at you, I wonder, why did she marry me? I didn't want you to see me like this. A failure." Sophia shook her head, tears falling freely. "Ethan, you're not a failure. You're my husband, the man I love. Why would you think I need you to be perfect?" Ethan gripped the railing tightly, head bowed. "I don't know, Soph. I just know I'm not the Ethan you fell in love with. I don't feel anything, not joy, not sadness, nothing. I didn't pull away because I'm tired of you. I just don't have the strength. I was scared if I touched you, you'd see how empty I am. His confession stabbed at Sophia's heart, but it also felt like a light piercing the darkness she'd been lost in. Sophia knelt before him, grasping his hands, feeling the cold roughness of his calloused fingers against her palms. "Ethan," she choked out, "why didn't you trust me? I'm your wife. I'm here to go through everything with you, not to judge you. If you're depressed, we'll find a way to fix it. I don't need you to be strong alone. I just need you with me." Ethan looked at her, tears finally spilling from his once dry green eyes. "I'm sorry, Soph. I didn't want you to suffer because of me." She stood, wrapping her arms around him tightly, resting her head against his chest, feeling the faint heartbeat beneath his thin t-shirt. "Don't apologize," she whispered. "Just tell me from the start. I thought you didn't love me anymore. Thought you had someone else. You don't know how much that hurt." Ethan hugged her back, his arms encircling her for the first time in months, his voice raspy. "I love you, Soph. I've always loved you. I just didn't know how to come back to who I was." They stood there in the balcony's chill, holding each other amid the sound of rain and whistling wind. Sophia felt Ethan's faint warmth, weak but enough to convince her their love still lived, buried under shadows but not gone. She knew this wasn't the end, but a new beginning, a journey to save Ethan and their marriage. After his confession, Sophia didn't leave him alone anymore. The next morning she called Rachel, her voice resolute. "Rach, Ethan's depressed. He's not cheating, but he's not okay. I need you to help me find a therapist in Dallas." Rachel, sipping coffee at home, sighed in relief. "God, I'm glad it's not something worse. Okay, I'll ask my friend. She knows some good ones. You and Ethan holding up?" Sophia gave a sad smile. "Not yet, but we'll try." She also called Derek, asking him to keep an eye on Ethan during their beer nights. "Derek, Ethan's struggling. If he seems off, text me right away, okay?" Derek nodded over the phone. "Don't worry, Soph. I'll watch him. You're amazing for not giving up on him." Sophia laughed faintly. "I'm his wife. I'm not giving up." That evening, she sat with Ethan on the sofa, laptop in hand. "Ethan, we're finding a therapist. You don't have to carry this alone anymore. I'm here, and we'll get through it together." Ethan looked at her, a flicker of hope in his green eyes. "You're not mad I hid it from you?" Sophia shook her head, squeezing his hand. "I'm mad, but I love you more than I'm mad. We'll start over, okay?" Ethan nodded, voice rough. "Okay, Soph." "Thank you." In the days that followed, Ethan opened up more, if only slightly. He agreed to see the therapist Rachel recommended, a middle-aged man named Dr. Harper, whose Highland Park office was warm with books and natural light. In their first session, Ethan recounted the pressures at Hensel Phelps, his feelings of worthlessness, and his fear of losing Sophia. Dr. Harper nodded, his voice calm. "You're not alone, Ethan. Depression's an illness, not weakness. We'll work through it slowly, all right?" Ethan nodded, gripping Sophia's hand beside him. At home, Sophia tried to create a comforting space for Ethan. She didn't push him to talk or do anything he wasn't ready for. Instead, she cooked his favorites, like steak with mashed potatoes, and played the soft George Strait country songs he once loved. One night, as they watched The Mandalorian on the sofa, Ethan unexpectedly rested his head on her shoulder, whispering, "I'm sorry for making you sad, Soph." Sophia stroked his hair, eyes glistening. "No more apologies. Just be here with me. That's enough." Their marriage still bore cracks, not ones that could heal overnight. But Ethan's confession had opened a small door, letting light seep through. Sophia knew the road ahead wouldn't be easy. Depression didn't vanish like a cold, and Ethan needed time to rediscover himself. But she was ready to fight for him, for their love, and for the home they'd built together. Winter in Dallas remained frigid, but in the days following Ethan's confession of depression, the atmosphere in the Deep Ellum penthouse began to shift. Not abruptly like a gust of wind, but slowly, gently, like sunlight filtering through thick fog. Sophia Bennett, with her steadfast love and unwavering determination, became the lighthouse guiding Ethan Sullivan through the storm within him. Ethan's healing journey wasn't a straight path. It was full of twists, dark days, and fleeting moments of warmth. But it was a journey they walked together, hand in hand. After the balcony confession, Sophia didn't let Ethan hesitate any longer. She promptly scheduled a session with Dr. Harper, the therapist Rachel had recommended, at his office in Highland Park, a posh Dallas neighborhood lined with oak-shaded streets and stately red brick homes. Dr. Harper's office was in a small building, its warm white walls complemented by walnut bookshelves brimming with thick volumes and large windows overlooking a winter-misted garden. The space exuded peace, but when Ethan stepped inside with Sophia, he was still tense. His hands gripped the edge of his Carhartt jacket, his green eyes glinting with anxiety. Dr. Harper, a man in his 50s with salt and pepper hair and round silver-framed glasses, greeted them with a kind smile. Dressed in a gray sweater and khakis, his deep, warm voice resonated as he shook Ethan's hand. "Hey, Ethan, Sophia's told me a bit about you. Just relax. We're only here to talk." Ethan nodded, but his voice was rough. "I'm not great at talking, Doc. I just don't want to burden anyone." Sophia squeezed his hand under the table, whispering, "You're not burdening anyone. I want you to get better." In that first session, Ethan recounted everything haltingly, the pressure from the Hensel Phelps project, the sleepless nights, and the growing emptiness inside. "I don't feel joy anymore," he said, rubbing his face as if to hide his shame. "I used to love football, grilling BBQ, being with Sophia, but now I feel nothing, like I'm just an empty shell." Dr. Harper nodded, jotting something in his notebook, his tone calm. "You're describing classic depression symptoms, Ethan. It's not your fault. It's an illness, and we can treat it. Are you willing to try?" Ethan glanced at Sophia, seeing the hope in her brown eyes, and nodded slowly. "Yeah, I'm willing." For her, Sophia smiled, gripping his hand tighter, though she knew this was just the first step, a small one on a long, challenging road. Dr. Harper suggested combining therapy with antidepressants, a low dose of sertraline to help Ethan sleep better and ease the heaviness. Ethan agreed reluctantly, uneasy about medication. "I don't want to get hooked on these pills," he told Sophia on the drive back from CVS, eyeing the white prescription box warily. Sophia rubbed his arm, her voice soft. "You won't get hooked. It's just a tool to help you, like the saw you use at the site. When you're better, we'll stop." The first few days on the medication brought side effects, mild nausea and lingering fatigue, which frustrated Ethan further. One evening he slumped on the sofa, hands cradling his head, voice edged with irritation. "Soph, this stuff's making me worse. I don't want to take it anymore." Sophia sat beside him, resting a hand on his shoulder. "Ethan, the doctor said the first few weeks might be rough, but it'll get better. Do you trust me?" Ethan sighed, meeting her gaze with tired green eyes. "I trust you. But I hate this feeling." She hugged him, whispering, "We'll get through it together, okay?" He nodded, leaning his head on her shoulder, a small gesture. But to Sophia, it was the first spark of hope. Alongside the medication, Ethan continued seeing Dr. Harper twice a week. The sessions grew easier, though not always comfortable. He opened up about work pressures, how his boss, Mr. Reynolds, demanded faster progress, how he stayed up until 2 or 3 a.m., reviewing blueprints, and how he felt inadequate. "I'm scared of getting fired," he admitted, his voice low. "If I lose my job, I don't know how I'll take care of Sophia. She deserves better than me." Dr. Harper leaned forward, his tone firm. "You don't have to be perfect to deserve her, Ethan. She's here for you, not your money or your job." After a few weeks, Ethan showed small signs of progress. He slept 6 or 7 hours a night instead of 4 or 5, and the weight in his chest lightened, though it didn't fully lift. One evening, as Sophia cooked steak in the kitchen, Ethan walked up and hugged her from behind, the first time in months he'd initiated contact. "Smells good," he murmured, his voice softer than before. Sophia turned, tears glistening in her eyes. "I'm just glad you think so." They ate dinner together, not talking much, but the silence wasn't oppressive anymore. It was gentle, like a quiet promise of better days. Sophia didn't let Ethan fight alone. She enlisted family and friends. She called Tom and Maggie Sullivan, inviting them to the penthouse one Saturday afternoon. They arrived with a warm pecan pie and a bag of beef jerky from Buc-ee's, and Sophia laid everything bare. Ethan's depression, their tough days and the healing journey ahead. Maggie hugged Ethan tightly, tears streaming down her face. "Son, why didn't you tell me? I don't want you suffering alone." Tom clapped his shoulder, voice gruff. "Men don't always have to be strong, Ethan. I've been worn out too, but family's here to lean on." Ethan bowed his head, voice choked. "I'm sorry, Mom. Dad, I didn't want you to worry." Maggie stroked his hair, smiling sadly. "Don't apologize. Just get better. That's all I want." They stayed all afternoon eating pie and watching a Cowboys-Giants game on TV. For the first time in months, Ethan laughed out loud when the home team scored, a small, genuine laugh that warmed Sophia's heart. She also asked Derek to hang out with Ethan more. One Friday night, Derek showed up with 2 Coors Lights and a tray of spicy Wingstop wings, dragging Ethan to the balcony for beers. "You've got to tell me when you're down, got it?" Derek said, slapping Ethan's shoulder. "I'm not letting you go it alone." Ethan nodded, sipping his beer. "Thanks, Derek." "I'm trying." They talked football and reminisced about playing at Allen High, and for the first time in ages, Ethan felt a weight lift in a friend's company. Larry and Eleanor Bennett pitched in too. One Sunday, they invited Ethan and Sophia to the ranch for an outdoor BBQ despite the cold. Larry grilled beef ribs on a Weber, white smoke curling into the crisp air over the fields. "Ethan, you're my son-in-law," he said, flipping the meat, his voice booming. "You don't have to do it all yourself. I'm here, the family's here. Take a break. Don't let work kill you." Eleanor brought out a tray of hot cornbread, smiling gently. "I'm glad you spoke up, Ethan. You being okay makes Sophia happy." Ethan nodded, touched by their care. "I'll try, sir, ma'am." Under Dr. Harper's guidance, Ethan began reclaiming small joys. The doctors suggested revisiting football, not playing, just watching and enjoying. One Saturday afternoon, Ethan and Sophia drove the Bronco to Allen High, where the Eagles were playing a scrimmage. Under pale winter sun, they sat on weathered bleachers, eating hot dogs from the concession stand and cheering the team. When the Eagles scored, Ethan leapt up, hollering and raising his Dr. Pepper. "Hell yeah!" Sophia laughed, tugging him back down. "You're more hyped than you used to be." Ethan grinned, his green eyes sparkling. "It's been forever since I felt this good." He also tried grilling again, a passion depression had stolen. One night, he stood in the penthouse kitchen, searing steak on a cast-iron skillet, the rich aroma filling the air. Sophia walked up, hugging him from behind. "My handsome chef's back." Ethan turned, kissing her forehead. "I'm trying for you." They ate under warm, golden light, and for the first time in months, Ethan reached for her hand across the table, a small gesture that felt like sunshine in winter to Sophia. The healing journey didn't just help Ethan rediscover himself, it brought him and Sophia closer. One Friday night, as they lay in bed after a long day, Ethan pulled Sophia into his arms, stroking her hair. "Soph, I'm sorry for shutting you out. I don't know how to thank you for not giving up on me." Sophia nestled against his chest, listening to his steady heartbeat, her voice thick. "I'd never leave you, Ethan. I love you, on your good days and your bad ones." He leaned down, kissing her, a slow, tender kiss brimming with emotion, unlike the mechanical ones of months past. Sophia kissed him back, arms around his neck, tears rolling down her cheeks. That night, they made love for the first time in nearly 3 months. Not rushed or forced, just 2 souls reconnecting after being lost. Afterward, Ethan held her tightly, whispering, "I won't lose you again, Sophia." She smiled, resting her head on his shoulder. "Me neither." Ethan's healing didn't wrap up in a few weeks. Depression was a long fight, and he still had rough days. Some mornings he woke heavy and reluctant to leave bed. But Sophia was there, opening the curtains to let light flood in, brewing coffee, and reminding him to take his meds. "We'll get through it, one day at a time," she'd say, holding his hand. Ethan nodded, a flicker of hope in his green eyes. One day at a time. They knew the road ahead was still bumpy. Ethan's job remained stressful, and he needed time to rebalance his life. But with Sophia, family, friends, and Dr. Harper in his corner, Ethan began to believe he could make it. Their marriage, once teetering on collapse, was now stitched back together with threads of love and understanding. Not perfect, but stronger than ever. The frigid Dallas winter had given way to a gentle spring, with warm breezes sweeping through the city and wildflowers blooming along the Trinity River. In their Deep Ellum penthouse, Ethan Sullivan and Sophia Bennett were slowly rediscovering a peaceful rhythm after months of stormy days. Ethan, though still battling depression, had stabilized thanks to therapy and Sophia's unwavering support. But just as they began to believe life was settling into a groove, unexpected news broke through like sunlight piercing clouds. Sophia was pregnant, ushering in a new chapter filled with hope and fresh anxieties in their marriage. It all began on a Tuesday morning in mid-March, when Dallas basked in pale golden sunlight and the cheerful chirping of birds filled the balcony. Sophia woke up feeling strange. Her stomach churned, her head spun slightly, and a faint wave of nausea sent her rushing to the bathroom. She stood at the sink, gripping the edge of the mirror, staring at her pale reflection in the LED light. "Probably ate too much last night," she muttered, recalling the spicy tacos from Velvet Tacos she and Ethan had shared with Derek. But as she brushed her teeth, a fleeting thought made her pause. "Am I late?" She grabbed her phone and opened her cycle tracking app. Her heart pounded when she saw she was over a week overdue. "No way," she whispered, her hands trembling as she sank onto the sofa. She and Ethan had been careful with contraception since he started therapy. He didn't want the added pressure of fatherhood before he was ready, but their most recent intimacy, after a tender night a few weeks back, had swept them away without much thought. Could it be? Sophia wondered, a mix of excitement and dread swirling inside her. She decided not to tell Ethan yet. He had a big day at Hensel Phelps, with a meeting about the Uptown project's progress. Instead, she drove her Tesla Model Y to the CVS on Greenville Avenue, buying 2 pregnancy tests with shaky hands. The cashier, a young woman with a ponytail, grinned brightly. "Good luck?" Sophia nodded, her forced smile masking the emotional storm brewing within. Back home, she stepped into the bathroom, locked the door, and took the first test. The 2-minute wait felt like an eternity. She stood there, eyes glued to the stick, her heart hammering, as if it might leap out of her chest. When 2 pink lines appeared, clear as day, Sophia clapped a hand over her mouth, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I'm really pregnant," she whispered, equal parts joy and fear washing over her. She took the second test to be sure. Same result. She sank onto the cold tile floor, clutching the tests, her mind racing with questions. How will Ethan react? Is he ready? Am I ready? Sophia knew she couldn't keep it from Ethan. He deserved to know, and she needed him by her side to face this. She waited until evening, when he returned from the worksite, his Carhartt jacket dusted with dirt, and his green eyes still carrying a hint of fatigue, though brighter than in months past. He stepped into the kitchen, where Sophia was searing steaks. The rich aroma mingled with the satisfying sizzle. "You're working hard today," he teased, a faint smile tugging at his lips as he shed his jacket. Sophia turned, offering a strained smile. "Sit down, I've got something to tell you." Ethan frowned, settling at the table with curiosity. "What's so serious, Soph?" She took a deep breath, plated his steak, and sat across from him, hands clasped tightly under the table. "Ethan," she began, voice trembling, I'm pregnant." The kitchen fell silent. The sizzle of the pan faded, leaving only the soft rustle of wind through the window. Ethan stared at her, his green eyes widening, mouth parting in disbelief. "Pregnant? Are you sure?" Sophia nodded, pulling the 2 tests from her pocket and handing them over. "Positive. I took them this morning." Ethan's hands shook as he examined the pink lines. He sat quiet for a moment, then looked up, his gaze a mix of joy and worry. "Soph, I don't know what to say. Are you okay? I mean, do you want to keep it?" Sophia gave a bittersweet smile, reaching for his hand. "I do, Ethan. But I'm scared. Scared you're not ready. Scared we're not stable enough." Ethan squeezed her hand, his voice rough. "I'm scared too, Soph. But if you want this, I'll do everything to get ready. I won't leave you alone in this." He stood, pulling her into his arms, holding her tight as if she might slip away. "I'm going to be a dad," he whispered, voice thick with emotion. "I didn't expect this so soon, but I'm happy, Soph." Really? Sophia rested her head on his chest, tears soaking his shirt. I'm happy too, Ethan. We can do this, right? He nodded, kissing her hair. Yeah, we can do it. That night they lay in bed, hands intertwined, talking about the future. For the first time in months, they dreamed together of something bigger than themselves. Word of Sophia's pregnancy spread through Dallas like a spring breeze. That weekend, they drove the Bronco to McKinney to tell Ethan's parents, Tom and Maggie Sullivan. When they arrived, Maggie was baking pecan pie, the sweet scent of brown sugar wafting through the house. Sophia gripped Ethan's hand, her voice shaky. Mom, Dad, we've got good news. I'm pregnant. Maggie dropped her spoon on the counter, rushing to hug Sophia, tears streaming. Oh my God, really? I'm gonna be a grandma. Tom clapped Ethan on the shoulder, laughing heartily. Good job, son. You're stepping up to fatherhood now. They gathered around the table, eating pie and talking about the baby. Maggie bubbled with excitement. I'll knit a blanket for the little one and bake extra for Sophia to stay strong. Tom nodded. I'll build a wooden crib, pure Texas style. Ethan grinned, his green eyes sparkling. Thanks, Mom and Dad. We're going to need all the help we can get. Sophia leaned into him, feeling the warmth of his family, a comfort she'd never cherished so deeply before. The next day, they visited the Bennett farm. Larry was grilling BBQ in the yard, white smoke billowing from the Weber. When Sophia said, Mom, Dad, I'm pregnant, Larry dropped his tongs, running to hug her. My little girl, I'm going to be a grandpa. Eleanor stepped out from the house, a glass of white wine in hand, beaming. I knew it had happened sooner or later. Are you feeling okay, Sophia? Sophia nodded. Yes, Mom, I'm fine, just a little tired. Larry slapped Ethan's shoulder. You take good care of her, you hear? You're the man of the house now. Ethan nodded firmly. Yes, sir. I'll do my best. Rachel and Derek got the news over beers at Lockhart Smokehouse. Rachel squealed, Oh my God, Soph, you're going to be a mom. I called dibs on godmother. Derek punched Ethan's arm. Congrats, bro. You've got a tiny football player coming. Ethan laughed. Hope it takes after me, not you. Worst linebacker Alan High ever saw. They clinked Coors Light bottles, laughter echoing through the joint. A joyful moment Ethan once thought he'd never reclaim. The baby news didn't just bring joy to Sophia. It became a powerful motivator for Ethan's healing. He doubled down on therapy, meeting Dr. Harper regularly, taking his meds on time, and focusing on the positives. I want to be a good dad, he told Dr. Harper in one session, voice brimming with resolve. I don't want my kids seeing me like I was, hollow and distant. Dr. Harper nodded, smiling gently. You're on the right path, Ethan. The baby's a big push, but don't forget to take care of yourself too. Ethan shifted his daily routine too. He asked for reduced hours at Hensel Phelps, laying it out straight with Mr. Reynolds. I'm about to be a dad. I need time for my family. Reynolds, gruff as ever, agreed. Fine, Sullivan. Just don't let the project lag. Ethan nodded, relieved to prioritize family over work for once. A huge leap from the man who once let job stress drown him. At home, he doted on Sophia. When morning sickness hit, he brewed ginger tea and rubbed her back through rough mornings. I don't want you wearing yourself out, he said, brushing her hair back. You're carrying our kid. Sophia smiled, leaning into him. You're sweeter than when we first got married. Ethan kissed her forehead. I've got more reason to try now. Though joy abounded, the pregnancy brought new worries. Sophia started prenatal visits at Baylor University Medical Center, where Dr. Nguyen, a petite obstetrician with a warm smile, confirmed she was 6 weeks along. Everything looks good so far, Dr. Nguyen said, pointing to a tiny blinking dot on the ultrasound. That's the baby's heartbeat. Sophia squeezed Ethan's hand, tears glistening. Hear that, Ethan? Our baby's got a heartbeat. Ethan nodded, his green eyes shining. Yeah, I hear it. So tiny but so strong. But Dr. Nguyen cautioned. Sophia, you're young and healthy, but rest is key. Morning sickness can tire you out, and stress isn't good for the baby. Sophia nodded, though she knew her tech job wouldn't ease up. AI projects were in crunch mode, and she didn't want to step away yet. Ethan fretted, Soph, take a few weeks off. I don't want you burning out. Sophia laughed, patting his hand. I'm fine, I'll scale back, but I want to work as long as I can. The weeks that followed saw Sophia's morning sickness worsen. She was often nauseous, barely eating, and sometimes dizzy from standing too long. One morning, she fainted in the kitchen after brewing coffee, sending Ethan into a panic. He caught her, laid her on the sofa, and called Dr. Nguyen. The doctor ordered a day in the hospital. Tests showed mild anemia and a need for complete rest. Ethan sat by her bedside holding her hand. "Soph, no more pushing yourself? You're resting. For our kid." Sophia nodded weakly. "You're right. I'll take long-term leave." The pregnancy, though challenging, drew Ethan and Sophia closer than ever. One evening, as Sophia lay on the sofa under Maggie's knitted blanket, Ethan sat beside her, hand on her still flat belly. "I'm thinking names. Jackson for a boy. Sounds strong, Texas style." Sophia smiled. "And for a girl? I like Emma. Simple and sweet." Ethan nodded. "Jackson or Emma? I like that." They began prepping for the baby, buying an IKEA crib, painting the living room a soothing pale blue, and planning a move to a bigger house near McKinney as the pregnancy progressed. Ethan told Sophia one night in bed, "I want our kid growing up near grandparents like I did. The penthouse is nice, but no yard for playtime." Sophia agreed, resting on his shoulder. "A little house with a yard and an oak tree. Sounds like my dream." Their marriage, once strained by Ethan's depression, was now fortified by a new love for their unborn child. Sophia's pregnancy wasn't just good news. It was a flame warming their home, guiding them through tough days and toward a future with fiercer hope than ever before. Spring in Dallas was in full bloom, with warm, sunny days casting a golden sheen over the city and gentle breezes carrying the scent of wildflowers from the suburban plains. In their Deep Ellum penthouse, Ethan Sullivan and Sophia Bennett were entering a new phase. Not just the journey of parenthood, but Ethan's rebirth. The news of the baby had become a flame illuminating his path, helping him not only overcome depression, but also transform into the best version of himself for Sophia and their child. Since Sophia's pregnancy, Ethan felt a new strength coursing through his veins. Not the strength of muscle or iron will, but the power of love and responsibility. He once told Dr. Harper during a therapy session in the Highland Park office, "I don't want my kid growing up with a weak father. I want them to be proud of me, like I was of my dad." Dr. Harper, with a kind smile behind silver-rimmed glasses, nodded. "You've got a big goal, Ethan. The baby's a motivator, but don't forget you deserve happiness too." Fatherhood's responsibility prompted Ethan to reassess his life. He no longer wanted to be consumed by the relentless grind at Hensel Phelps until he burned out. One Wednesday morning, he walked into Mr. Reynolds' office, a tall man with a booming voice and sharp eyes for a candid talk. "Mr. Reynolds," Ethan began, his tone low but steady, "my wife's pregnant. I need to cut back hours to take care of her and prepare for our kid. I'll still do my job well, but my family comes first." Reynolds frowned, tapping the desk. "Sullivan, you know how big the Uptown project is. But I get it. Family's everything. I'll rework your schedule, but don't let me down." Ethan nodded, a wave of relief washing over him. "Thank you, sir. I won't." That decision marked a turning point. Ethan dropped from 60 to 40 hours a week, freeing up evenings and weekends for Sophia. He no longer came home with slumped shoulders and a weary face. Instead, he stepped into the penthouse with a faint smile and brighter green eyes, ready to tackle small tasks to care for his wife. Ethan began adjusting his daily routine to embrace his new role. Each morning, he woke before Sophia, brewing ginger tea from Twining's packets to ease her morning sickness, and preparing simple breakfast, toast with peanut butter or sunny-side-up eggs. When Sophia lingered in bed, he brought a tray to the small table beside her. "Rise and eat, Soph. Our little one needs you strong." Sophia smiled, rubbing her still flat belly. "You're spoiling me more than when we were dating." He also kept a close eye on Sophia's health after her kitchen fainting spell. When Dr. Nguyen ordered complete rest, Ethan became a strict yet gentle overseer. He wouldn't let her do chores. Whenever Sophia grabbed a broom, he'd gently take it away. "I've got this. Sit down. No overdoing it." Sophia pouted playfully, then laughed. "You're more nurse than husband now." Ethan shrugged, a rare grin breaking through. "Nurse or whatever, as long as you and the baby are okay. Alongside caring for Sophia, Ethan took better care of himself. He stuck to his antidepressant schedule, met Dr. Harper weekly, and started light exercise, jogging along Clyde Warren Park in the early mornings, when the air was crisp and the sun still soft. He wore earbuds, listening to favorite country tunes like George Strait's Amarillo by Morning, feeling sweat on his brow wash away lingering fragments of darkness. "I want to be fit to play ball with our kid," he told Sophia one evening, wiping sweat after a run. She laughed. "The baby's not even here, and you're already planning ahead." Ethan's positive shift went beyond daily habits. It was in rediscovering joy in old hobbies. One Saturday afternoon, he decided to grill BBQ on the penthouse balcony, small space, but big enough for the portable Weber grill Larry had gifted him. He marinated beef ribs with spicy Texas seasoning, standing by the grill as white smoke billowed and the aroma filled the apartment. Sophia sat nearby in an armchair, sipping lemonade, laughing. "You could open a BBQ joint and pack the place." Ethan turned, tongs in hand, beaming. "Just cooking for you and the kid. No selling." That night, they invited Derek and Rachel over. Derek brought Coors Light, and Rachel carried a tray of Sprinkles cupcakes as a gift for the mom-to-be. They gathered around the table, digging into ribs and spicy wings, laughter ringing out as Derek recounted Ethan nearly torching a grill in high school. Ethan roared, "I was clueless back then, pro now." Sophia leaned into him, feeling the life in his voice, and Ethan she'd once feared was gone forever. He also returned to football, not just watching, but playing. One Sunday, Derek dragged him to a pickup game with friends at Reverchon Park. Ethan wore an old tee and shorts, sprinting across green grass with a football in hand, sweat streaking his tan face. He scored a touchdown, and Derek's cheers rang out. "Still got it, Sullivan." Ethan laughed, jogging back to hug Sophia, who watched from a folding chair. "See that? Our kid's gonna learn from me." Sophia grinned. "Let's hope they're not as wild as you." Ethan's transformation wasn't just skin deep. It ran deep in how he treated Sophia. Gone were the days of distance and coldness. Each night he sat beside her on the sofa, hand on her belly, whispering to the baby despite no response. "Jackson or Emma, stay strong. Daddy's waiting for you." Sophia smiled, ruffling his hair. "You're sweeter to the baby than to me." Ethan kissed her cheek. "Because it's your kid too." They also made time to reconnect as a couple. One Friday afternoon, Ethan drove the Bronco to Lake Ray Hubbard, 20 miles from Dallas, for a picnic. He spread a blanket on the grass by the water, unpacking eatsy sandwiches and fresh strawberries from Central Market. They sat under an oak, watching the lake shimmer in the sunlight, hands clasped. "I miss days like this," Ethan said, voice warm. "Back when we were dating, we'd hang out with no worries." Sophia rested her head on his shoulder. "We still can, just with one more joining us." That night, back home, they lay in bed holding each other in quiet darkness. Ethan whispered, "Soph, thank you for not giving up on me. Without you, I don't know where I'd be." Sophia kissed his forehead. "Thank you for coming back to me. We'll be a happy family, right?" Ethan nodded, eyes gleaming. "Yeah, I promise." With the baby on the way, Ethan and Sophia decided to leave the penthouse for a bigger home near McKinney, to build a nest close to family. One Saturday, they drove with Tom to a new suburban neighborhood, full of single-story brick houses, oak-shaded front yards, and a peaceful vibe far from Dallas's hustle. They picked a 3-bedroom with a backyard big enough for BBQs and a swing set. Ethan buzzed with ideas. "I'll make a play corner out back, slide and swings." Sophia smiled. "And I'll plant flowers out front, lavender and sunflowers, so our kid grows up with nature." Tom nodded. "I'll help you fix it up." "This place is solid, like our old house." They signed the contract that week, planning to move before Sophia gave birth, a big step toward their future. Despite the positivity, Ethan still faced tough days. Some mornings he woke with a heaviness, his mind clouded like a storm rolling in. He'd sit on the sofa, head in hands, voice low. "Soph, I'm not great today." Sophia didn't push. She brewed tea, sat beside him, and held his hand. "It's okay. Take a day off. We'll watch a movie. They streamed The Sandlot on Netflix, and Sophia's laughter at the kids' baseball antics slowly pulled Ethan from the gloom. He also learned to balance work and family. Once Reynolds called him on a weekend about a site issue, but Ethan declined. "Sorry, I'm with my wife today. I'll handle it Monday." Reynolds grumbled, but Ethan stood firm. He'd learned family trumped blueprints and deadlines. Ethan's change wasn't fleeting. It was profound growth. One night, on the balcony of their new home, gazing at a full moon hanging over the Texas sky, he told Sophia, "I thought I'd never make it through, Soph, but with you and the baby, I feel stronger than ever." Sophia leaned into him, hand on her slightly rounded belly. "You've always been strong, Ethan. Now you just know how to show it." Ethan was no longer just the husband who'd lost his way. He was a man ready to be a father, with a brighter smile, green eyes lit with hope, and a heart beating fiercely for his little family. Their marriage, once fractured, was now reinforced by love, responsibility, and faith in a radiant future. Ethan Sullivan and Sophia Bennett's new home on the outskirts of McKinney, with its oak-shaded front yard and vibrant purple lavender bushes, had truly become their sanctuary. After months of preparation, Sophia entered the final stretch of her pregnancy, her belly round, her brown eyes sparkling with a mix of joy and nerves, and Ethan by her side, stronger than ever. The day their baby would arrive was drawing near, bringing both excitement and the last hurdles before they officially became a family of three. August in Texas blazed with scorching heat, temperatures often hitting 100 degrees Fahrenheit, 38 degrees Celsius. Sophia, now 38 weeks pregnant, moved slowly through their air-conditioned home. She often sat in the living room armchair, rubbing her belly, feeling the baby's gentle kicks. "She's a wild one, Ethan," she said one afternoon, her voice tinged with fatigue but overflowing with love. "Must take after you." Ethan, lounging beside her with a cold Dr. Pepper, laughed. "Hope she gets some of you too. Smart and beautiful." Sophia rested her head on his shoulder, a wave of peace washing over her. But the final days of pregnancy weren't all bliss. Sophia's feet swelled, her back ached, and sleep became elusive. Ethan worried, checking on her constantly. "You okay, Soph? Want me to make tea or rub your feet?" Sophia gave a faint smile. "You're fussing too much. I'm fine, just tired." But one night, woken by a mild contraction, she grabbed Ethan's hand in the dark. "Ethan, I think it's close. I'm scared." He bolted upright, pulling her into a tight hug. "Don't be. I'm here. We'll get through this together." They were prepared. The hospital bag sat by the door, packed with baby clothes, diapers, and a tiny blanket Maggie had knitted. Ethan checked the Bronco daily, ensuring it was fueled up and ready to race to Baylor University Medical Center at a moment's notice. He told Sophia, "I'm not getting caught off guard. When you say go, we're gone." Sophia laughed. "You're more driver than husband now." The big day arrived on a Friday morning, under a cloudless Dallas sky. Sophia was eating breakfast, toast with strawberry jam, when a sharp pain ripped through her abdomen, followed by a wet sensation. She clutched Ethan's hand, voice trembling. "Ethan, my water broke." He leapt up, knocking his Dr. Pepper to the floor, panic in his tone. Okay, stay calm. I'll grab the bag, you sit tight." He dashed around like a headless chicken, finally helping Sophia to the car with shaky hands. The drive to the hospital was a tense blur. Ethan sped the Bronco down I-75, gripping the wheel, glancing at Sophia constantly. "You okay? Does it hurt bad? Breathe deep, Soph." Sophia held his hand, trying to stay calm as contractions intensified. "I'm fine, don't freak out. Just drive faster." They reached Baylor in 20 minutes, a record for Dallas rush hour, and Ethan nearly shouted at the nurse at reception. "My wife's in labor. Please help her." Sophia was wheeled into the delivery room, Ethan right beside her, holding her hand tight. Dr. Nguyen, their obstetrician, arrived with a reassuring smile. "Sophia, you're doing great. We're almost there." But labor was grueling. Sophia endured 12 hours of pain, sweat streaming down her forehead, squeezing Ethan's hand so hard he winced. "I'm here, Soph. he whispered, voice thick. You're so strong. Keep going. Sophia screamed through each contraction, but her eyes burned with resolve. I can do this. For our baby. At 6 p.m., with one final push, a tiny wail filled the room. Dr. Nguyen lifted a red, wriggling baby girl with a shock of dark hair. Congratulations, it's a healthy girl, Sophia sobbed, hands trembling, as she took her daughter from the doctor. Ethan stood frozen, tears rolling down his tan face. Our baby. Soph, she's perfect. They named her Emma, the name they'd picked long ago, and when Ethan held her first, he whispered, Hey, little one, I'm your daddy. Post-birth, Sophia stayed in the hospital 2 days to recover. Ethan never left her side, sleeping on the room's small sofa, changing Emma's diapers, fetching water whenever Sophia needed it. I don't want to miss a second, he said, eyes shining as he watched Emma sleep in the bassinet by the bed. Sophia smiled weakly. You're a better dad than I even imagined. Back home in McKinney, family and friends poured in to celebrate. Maggie brought pecan pie and a tiny knit outfit for Emma. My grandbaby's too cute. Tom hugged Ethan. You're a father now, son. I'm proud. Larry and Eleanor arrived with a giant teddy bear for our Emma to play with. Rachel and Derek showed up with cupcakes and beer. Congrats, you're a real family now. Ethan laughed. Thanks, everyone. We're going to need a lot of advice. But parenthood wasn't all joy. Emma cried a lot at night, leaving Sophia and Ethan sleepless and yawning. In those early days, they took turns soothing her, Sophia singing lullabies in a tired but tender voice, Ethan pacing the living room, patting her back. Sleep, Emma, please. Mommy and Daddy are wiped. They learned to mix formula, change diapers, and survive sleepless nights. A new challenge, but a profound happiness too. Fall arrived, bringing cooler air and golden leaves scattering around their McKinney home. One Sunday afternoon, Ethan and Sophia hosted a backyard BBQ to celebrate Emma's 3-month milestone. Ethan manned the Weber grill, cooking ribs and spicy sausages, smoke curling up amid lively chatter. Sophia sat in an armchair, cradling Emma, now chubby with rosy cheeks and brown eyes like her mom's. Look at her. Think she takes after me as a kid, Ethan teased, flipping meat. Sophia laughed. She's got both of us. Wild like you, cute like me. Family and friends gathered around the wooden outdoor table. Tom strummed his guitar, singing Johnny Cash's Folsom Prison Blues. Maggie rocked Emma, humming softly. Larry shared tales of his Houston youth, while Eleanor sliced cornbread for everyone. Derek and Rachel played with Emma, making her giggle. Ethan looked at Sophia, green eyes gleaming. I never thought we'd have this, Soph. She squeezed his hand. Me neither. But we did it, didn't we? He kissed her forehead. Yeah. And I wouldn't trade it for anything. Their marriage, once teetering on collapse, now stood firm like the oak in their front yard. Deep roots, strong branches, sheltering their little family. Ethan's depression hadn't vanished entirely, but he'd learned to live with it, buoyed by Sophia's love, family support, and Emma's joy. They hadn't just survived the storm. They'd built a radiant future, a story ending not in drama, but with a child's laughter and warm autumn sunlight. Thanks for joining Ethan and Sophia on this emotional journey. From happy days through darkness to the light of love and family, this is a tale of human resilience. Drop a comment with your thoughts and don't forget to like and subscribe so you won't miss more amazing stories. See you in the next video.